Hello, everyone. This is episode number 25 of Stats Over Politics. I'm your host, Shaun alongside my guy, Kevin Dent. Garry Singh will be joining us very soon as he comes off of work. Javon Toddy is unable to make it tonight, but he'll be back again next week to talk everything NBA playoffs. My guy, Kevin, how are we doing?
Doing well, man. Can't complain. Kings up 2-0. It's a great time to be a Kings fan. Jalen Hurts just got signed, so it's a great time to be an Eagles fan. So I honestly have no complaints. Shaun, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great. Thank you for asking. I'm glad to hear that your Eagles finally did right by Jalen Hurts. I mean, it felt like it was only a matter of time. Speaking of time, I'm not sure how long we're gonna go into all the NBA playoffs and everything. So let's just take a moment real quickly. Just give us your thoughts about this massive deal for Jalen Hurts. $51 million annually. He's now the highest paid player in the NFL when it comes to average annual value. And a lot of that is guaranteed. So what did you think about all that?
Well deserved, man. We saw him go toe-to-toe with arguably the best quarterback in the NFL. Well, not arguably the best quarterback in the NFL. If you don't think Patrick Mahomes is the best in the quarterback for the NFL, then I don't know what you're watching on Sundays. But to see him go toe-to-toe and lead this team after everything that everyone thought of him coming in out of his second year or his first year as a full starter, we didn't do too well. We lost to the Patriots, or not the Patriots. We lost to Tom Brady and the Buccaneers in a horrible way. So going into the next season, everyone talked about how we had 2 first-round picks. So, if Jalen wasn't the guy, we'd be able to trade up and get a quarterback. We brought in A.J. Brown, and it really just blossomed his game. So I'm excited to see what is in store for the next 3 to 4 years with Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, I definitely think that it's going to be many years of success for Jalen Hurts and the Eagles as he signs a 5-year extension worth $255 million. $179.3 million of it is guaranteed with a no trade clause. Shout out to Nicole Lynn, who said that she was looking for a Brinks truck. For those of you who don't know, that's his agent. She is the leader of the football division at Clutch Sports. And she said a couple of weeks ago, or a couple of months ago, I think was the tweet that she re-quoted when she was saying, "I'm looking for a Brinks truck." And then she quoted it right after this deal was announced. And she said, "Oh, I found it." As I said, that $51 million average is the highest in the NFL. So congratulations to Jalen Hurts. Well-deserved. A guy who, I mean, he was the starting quarterback for the national champions, and then he got replaced in the title game. And he could have just tumbled from there, but he took it on the chin and he still got drafted. They wanted to talk about converting him to another position, as they like to do with a lot of talented black people or a lot of talented people with speed in general. They always try to convert him from quarterback. But he definitely deserved every single thing that's coming to him, because that's an example of overcoming adversity. And I just think it's a really good example for kids too nowadays. Anyways, I also wanted to mention real quickly a couple other notes that we had from the NFL. Last week, we did a whole preview of these NBA playoffs, the play-in, and now we have the playoffs officially underway, but we didn't get a chance to talk about a couple of these things. So just real quickly, Odell Beckham signed with the Baltimore Ravens on a 1-year deal worth $18 million, $15 million guaranteed, Kevin. And, I mean, is this the right fit for Odell Beckham, or is this the right move for him?
I think he just went with the biggest bidder. He asked the Jets to match it, and they were like, "We're not matching it." No one was looking to pay Odell Beckham $15 million. If you're to pay a receiver $15 million, you're expecting at least 1,100 to 1,200 yards and 6-7 touchdowns. Is Odell still a number one receiver? Rashad Bateman has a good guy to look up to, a mentor and things like that. But moving forward, Lamar Jackson still wants his money. He still hasn't signed the franchise tag. So there's still a lot of things up in the air in Baltimore. So hopefully, Lamar Jackson is his quarterback. But for $15 million, I'm sure Odell doesn't care who his quarterback is.
Yeah, that's a good point. And we also found out the news of Odell Beckham apparently playing with no ACL in the season that he won the Super Bowl with the Rams, because when he signed with them in like week 9, as he was going through all the physicals and everything, the doctors were like, "Yeah, you probably just need to have another surgery." He's like, "I've come too far to have another surgery right now." He has a Super Bowl ring to show for it. So props to Odell Beckham Jr. And we shall see how that works out for Odell and the Ravens. And if Lamar Jackson is in fact his quarterback, as I'm sure he anticipates. Staying in your division, we bounced out with Lamar, but back to your division with the NFC East. The Snyder family might actually sell the football team, now known as the Washington Commanders. And so, Kevin, do you think this is a good move for the rest of the NFC East, or is this a bad thing because now they won't be as dysfunctional?
I'm just happy the dysfunctional organization is out of the picture. The Commanders have had a lot of bad reflect off Snyder, just the things he's done. We don't have to go into it. I'm sure everyone knows, but just getting some new organization in there, some new blood in there. They have a new offensive coordinator. They're moving in with Sam Howell, so they have a lot of opportunity. So I'm excited to see what the Commanders turn into, but I know that it's going to be hard playing in the same division as the Eagles, but we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, like you always like to say, it's lonely at the top. So the Eagles will remain there. The Cowboys, they'll claw to try and get up there as well, and we will wait and see. Final thing, and this news came out today, is that Demar Hamlin, after nearly dying on the football field on Monday night, and it basically ruined every fantasy football championship. But what's more important is that the man lived, and even more remarkably, especially how fast it has happened, he has now apparently been cleared to return to the NFL, and he intends to make a comeback to the NFL. And so what was your initial reaction to that news today, Kevin?
It was honestly shocking. I know he said he wanted to come back, but now that it's actually here, you would think he would just take a little bit more time off. But you can't tell an athlete to stop. Every time an athlete's coming through a recovery, they want to get back on the field as soon as possible. So I know the injury was to an extreme. It's not like he just had a twisted ankle or anything like that coming back from, but you can't tell him no. He wants to do it. So I'm just praying and hoping for him that, it doesn't happen again. It was a freak accident. So I'm just praying that he has a healthy career, man. Football's dangerous enough as it is.
Yeah, it is without a doubt. And that was just revealing on how scary it truly can be. And so I'm personally glad that he is just here to tell the story. And, if that's what he wants to do with his life and his career, to give it another shot, all power to him. And I'd be happy to see him eventually make that comeback. And who knows, at the end of last season, when we made our playoff predictions going into the playoffs, I thought the Bills were going to win it all. And I just thought that they were going to just be on that emotional ride and doing it for DeMar. Who knows, if he ends up coming back and starting this next season, then the entire season could be one emotional ride. And maybe the suffering fans of Buffalo, they may finally be rewarded with a Super Bowl trophy. So we shall see. But that's it for the NFL, because, Kevin, that's like 6 months from now. Let's talk about what's right in front of us, and that is the NBA playoffs. As the play-in tournament happened last week, we previewed it, and we all gave our own picks along with my friend Emiliano, who joined us for last week's episode. Shout out to Emiliano. We appreciate you. And we gave our picks for the West Side, and I was the only one to pick the Timberwolves. And real quickly, in that game between the Timberwolves and Lakers, I just want to give a quick shout out to Wes and say that's the last time that I will have faith in the Minnesota Timberwolves. I thought I was doing you a solid. I thought they were doing me a solid for about 42 minutes of that game, until we got to the final 6 minutes, and the Timberwolves and the Lakers, for that matter, neither team really seemed like they wanted to win. Then we went to overtime, and the Lakers eventually pulled away. But, Kevin, that's the last time that I will have faith in a Minnesota sports team in general.
A lot of faith in yourself, man, for just to take that leap of faith.
Yeah, I know. I got a little wild there, but everyone else was right that the Lakers ultimately ended up beating the Timberwolves. But the Timberwolves, they end up getting into the playoffs after defeating the Oklahoma City Thunder and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who took a nasty shot from the returning Rudy Gobert in this game. But the Timberwolves end up getting into the playoffs by advancing through the play-in tournament. And so, what were your thoughts on the West side of the play-in tournament?
I was just happy to see LeBron James come in there and, assert his dominance. Him and Anthony Davis to come in there with all the noise, how much rest they needed coming into it. So for them to go in there and get that win early, for them to just get those extra 2 to 3 days of rest, get the time to scout, things like that went really well. And like you mentioned with OKC, I thought they were going to be able to hang with Minnesota, but it just came to a point where they just had the size, and we had Luke Dort and Shea and Josh Giddey trying to guard Cat and Rudy. They just didn't have the size. And when you have 2 7-footers out there against a whole bunch of 6'6" and under guys, 6'7" maybe, with the other Jalen Williams, it was really hard for them to compete. And on the East side, man, it was ridiculous. I really thought you were going to call it with Chicago, man. Thought Chicago was going to make a run for it for the 8th seed. I thought they were going to do it, man. But, the Hawks got to sneak in. I haven't been too fond on the Hawks, but, they're here now, and we're just ready for the broom to come out. So,
yeah, on the Western side of the play-in tournament, I was completely wrong all over. Like, I had the Timberwolves beating the Lakers. I had the Pelicans beating the Thunder. And then, yeah, I did have the Timberwolves, and like I got the 2 teams, but that wasn't like too much of a bold prediction considering that they were the favorites to get in as the 7th and 8th seeds. And so I completely butchered the Western Conference, but the Eastern Conference, I completely nailed that one, because even though I did pick Chicago to upset Toronto in Toronto, which ended up happening, I did think that the Heat were ultimately gonna handle them, and that's what they did. But the Hawks, I mean, I did pick the Hawks, and I felt great. The fact that they actually did upset the Heat and that they held on after having such a big lead in that first half. I thought they were going to just let it slip away. They were going to end up choking and maybe eventually falling out of the play-in and the playoffs completely. But the Hawks hold on. They get into the playoffs, and it might be real quick. Like the Hawks probably should have just lost. So then let me ask you that. If you're in the Eastern Conference, there's so much talk about like late in the season when teams are trying to position themselves for a certain seed. Everyone was saying that they wanted the 6th seed so then they can play the Kings. We see what happened so far. But when it comes to the Eastern Conference with the Bucks as the number 1 seed, the Celtics as the number 2 seed, was there really an advantage? Like, should the Hawks have lost on purpose so then they could have ended up playing the Bucks instead? Like, it seems like you're picking your poison there.
Shit, man, I'd rather take the Celtics over the Bucks any days. It's easier to match up with Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown than it is Giannis Antetokounmpo. If you don't have a big man that can guard him on the perimeter and be able to match up with the physicality on the inside, it's going to be a mismatch. And like everyone can see the way his dominance is, a lot of guys don't have a defender for him. So I think, you're going to be a punching bag either way. You might as well take a chance in the dark, but now with Giannis going down, everything's different now. I bet the Hawks are like, damn, we could have played a hurt Bucks. Now we're about to get swept.
Everything is pretty interesting in hindsight, and we'll get to that series in just a moment. Well, actually, later on when we do get to the Eastern Conference. But let's kick things off with the Western Conference, as the Nuggets, the number 1 seed, currently hold a 1-0 lead. Oops, I put that on the wrong thing. Put Morant injured on the wrong one. That's for the next one. Anyways, so the Nuggets, they're currently up on the Timberwolves, Wes's Timberwolves, and it wasn't close at all in game 1. And so we didn't exactly predict these series because they were undetermined for the 1 and 2 seeds. But how do you think that this series is going to end up turning out? Do you think that the Timberwolves end up stealing a game because of Anthony Edwards and it becomes a gentleman's sweep? Do the Timberwolves actually make it more competitive, or is it just going to be a straight up sweep based on what we saw in game 1?
I think it might just be a sweep, man. I think the Nuggets just have too much going on for him, man. The Joker finally got his healthy duo back with him to make them a trio with Michael Porter Jr. and Jamal Murray, and we saw them coming back into the game, and it just makes it so much easier. They got Bruce Brown coming off the bench. They just have so many pieces that fit well around the Joker. I just don't think the Timberwolves have enough, especially with Jalen McDaniels going down. What I miss?
We got breaking news here on Stats Over Politics, episode number 25, as breaking news from ESPN. Warriors Draymond Green given 1-game suspension without pay for stepping on the chest of Kings Domantas Sabonis in game 2. It is official. Draymond Green will not be playing, as now one of my group chats is just blowing up. Kevin, did you hear all of those dings? I really hope you did.
No, I didn't.
Okay, perfect. I just kept hearing ding, ding, ding in my headphones as one of my group chats was just blowing up because of that notification. We will get to that news in just a moment, but just wrapping up with this Nuggets and Timberwolves series. I'm sorry I interrupted you there, so you can close out your thoughts on this series.
Oh yeah, man. I just like I was getting at. I just think it's gonna be a sweep. I just don't think the Timberwolves have enough with Jalen McDaniels going out and Nas Reed going out. It's just gonna be a lot for them to carry over. And I don't know if Anthony Davis can do it by himself or not. Anthony Davis, Anthony Edwards can do it by himself.
Well, here's the thing is they traded 4 first-round picks and then also Walker Kessler, who was a first-round pick in this past year's draft. Walker Kessler looks like he has been a better defensive player this year than Rudy Gobert, who he was traded for. And so the Timberwolves and Tim Conley specifically, this is an interesting series because Tim Conley used to run that Nuggets front office. Then he went to Minnesota to take over in Minnesota. His first big move was the Rudy Gobert trade, and we have seen how it has worked out so far. And so the question that I'm getting to here is, isn't this exactly what the Timberwolves traded for Rudy Gobert for? Because, okay, Karl Anthony Towns isn't going to be your defensive anchor, but that's exactly what Rudy Gobert was traded for. And yeah, he's playing against the back-to-back reigning MVP, but he should at least be able to limit him. I mean, do you think he'll make at least an impact in this series?
He's gonna have to, man. They're between him and Karl Anthony Towns. You have 2 7-footers. Someone's gotta. You just gotta throw a lot of size at the Joker, and just try to put bodies in front of him. Like I mentioned, they have all the weapons around him, so it's even harder. But if you can slow him down, you slow down the engine of the machine. 2-time MVP, arguably people say he can be the next 3-time MVP to join that historic list. But they're just too much going on. And if Rudy Gobert is going to show his worth, it's going to show up in this series. And if not, I think they're going to have a lot of questions in the offseason, like slow-mo Kyle Anderson said.
Yeah, without a doubt. And all of that is just so much drama in itself as the Nuggets won game 1, 109-80. And even that 29-point disparity doesn't really tell the true story of the game, because when it got into the second half, like, I'll be honest, I turned it off because I was just like, it was the last game on a Sunday after it was the 4th game, and they put it there specifically. Yeah, because the Nuggets are in the Mountain Time Zone, which is close enough to the West Coast. But it just got to a point in that game where the Nuggets were up by 30 plus, and I was just like, this isn't competitive at all. Let me just turn this off. And I agree with you. I think it's going to be a sweep. I'd love to get weird, as you know, I like to with some of my picks and say, oh, Anthony Edwards will steal a game. But what did I tell you at the beginning of this episode? I am done having faith in any Minnesota sports teams. Wes, they let me down. And Kevin's sister, Alex, she agrees. It's just funny that I had faith in a Minnesota sports team, and she agrees that it's going to be a sweep for the Nuggets over the Timberwolves. Uncle Manny checking in with us on the breaking news about Draymond Green, as Uncle Manny says, Draymond's history speaks for itself. He is a clown and dirty player. Glad the league is sending a message that his antics are not acceptable. Completely well said, Uncle Manny. I couldn't have said it any better myself. And nephew Garry is on the way after he gets home from a lacrosse game that he has to cover this evening. Anyways, Kevin, now let's move on to the next matchup in the Western Conference in the NBA playoffs, first round. And this is the series that we all were kind of anticipating. I mean, I technically didn't pick this series since I did pick the Timberwolves to win in the play-in against the Lakers, but all the rest of you guys, the 4 of you who picked this last week, all were anticipating that the Lakers were going to play the Grizzlies and that the Lakers would have a great shot to win the series against the Grizzlies even before Ja Morant got hurt again. And so now after Sunday's game, the Lakers are up 1-0 over the 2-seed Grizzlies, and Ja Morant is questionable. I think that was the last thing that I saw. Is he questionable? Is he doubtful? I guess they're still saying he's questionable, but if you watch Ja Morant's post-game interview after game 1, he was so disheveled and upset, and you could just read his body language when they were saying, do you know, or is it going to be uncertain if you play in game 2? And he was like, yeah, it's going to be uncertain. And you could tell that he knows more than he's really saying, but you could just tell it wasn't a good situation. And so going into this series, Kevin, obviously the Lakers were your championship pick to hoist the title at the end of the season, just like Garry. And so obviously you had the Lakers getting by the Grizzlies. But do you think that the Lakers could end up sweeping this series if Ja Morant's injury is serious enough for him to miss 1, 2, maybe 3 games? I
Yeah,
think
for
Blue definitely thinks so.
Blue definitely thinks so. A sweep is a lot, man. I think the Grizzlies are still really good. Tyus Jones is probably arguably the best backup point guard in the league. So I think they'll still be able to get one. But if Jaw's going to be out, like you said, 2-3 games, I think it's got to be a gentleman's sweep. But just reacting to the game, it was insane to see Rui Hachimura go in there and do his thing. After the first 2 threes, I got out of my seat and, he just kept raining. And he was able to become the first Laker since Magic Johnson to score 25 points off the bench in the playoffs. And we can't talk about Rui and not sit here and give Austin Reeves his flowers. For him to step up in that fourth quarter with LeBron James and Anthony Davis on the court, he scored 9 straight buckets. That's like 3-4 up and downs where Anthony Davis and LeBron James were just sitting in the corner. If Desmond Bane was going under the screen, he's pulling up for the 3. If he's going over, he's going to that mid-range jumper, he's getting to the cut. So Austin Reeves went out there and did his thing when when the Lakers needed him most, and it really showed. Jared Vanderbilt started 24 games for the Lakers since he's been traded for them, and they are 17-7. He said after the first quarter of the press conference interview that he wanted the Ja Morant matchup. He's picking him up full court. You don't see a lot of people picking up Ja Morant full court. For him to accept that challenge shows that he's not only the Lakers' best perimeter defender, but arguably one of the best in the league. And Anthony Davis, man, for him to go out there and have 5 blocks in the first half alone was literally insane. And I don't know about you, Shaun, but my heart dropped when I read his lips and he said he can't move his shoulder, man. I thought it was over for him. They just like the Suns series last year. Every time we get to this point, Anthony Davis just breaks apart. And but for him to come back and not only get 2 more blocks, but to have that dominance in both the first and second half just goes a lot to show. And then we can't talk about the Lakers without talking about LeBron James. For him to go out there on a casual night, just an easy 21 points, 11 rebounds, 5 assists, 3 blocks, and 2 steals. I got a quick playoff stat for you. So out of all the active NBA players with games of 20 points, 10 rebounds, 5 assists, 3 blocks, and 2 steals, LeBron James has 7 and there's 8 active players that have 1. So it's
wow.
LeBron James is doing his thing, man. So Lakers have won 24 straight best of 7 series when they win game 1. It's the longest streak in the NBA. So I'm excited to see where this series is going to go.
Yeah, I am too. It's definitely going to be interesting depending on Ja Morant's injury. And let's not forget about Steven Adams and Brandon Clark, who are basically done. Brandon Clark is done for the season. I think Steven Adams is officially done for the season as well. And so those are 2 huge losses for the Grizzlies. They may not make very much noise like Ja Morant and Dillon Brooks do, but those were 2 key pieces to this Grizzlies team. And just getting to that stat that you were talking about LeBron, I saw a stat recently that LeBron's #1 fan, Nick Wright, put out where, and I hate when Nick does this because I think he's making a great point when he is saying like LeBron is doing something that no player has ever done in terms of how many points he's averaging in year 20. Great point. But what I didn't like about it is that he's comparing LeBron year 20 to other players in year 20, when I think the better argument that would still help his case would be if he said LeBron at age 38, here is Kobe at age 38, here's Kareem at age 38, because then you are comparing, like Kobe didn't go to college, so he is a direct comparable. But all these other players, like Kareem, played 4 years in college. And so comparing them by age, I feel like that hurts LeBron's case, and it kind of helps the Michael Jordan fans who still think that he is the GOAT by saying, okay, yeah, but LeBron has had 4 more years or 3 more years, 2 more years than other guys did in the NBA to start off. And so my point is that the stat that Nick was talking about had like players in year 20 to score like 30 points in a game. LeBron's done it like 50 times. Kobe did it like 8 times. And then Kareem did it once. And there was like other players who had done it once. And that was it. And it just continues to show the greatness of LeBron and the level that he's at. And I'm glad that you mentioned Rui Hachimura because he had a big impact in this game. But I'm extremely disappointed that you did not mention the superstar of this game. I mean, Alex brought him up. She said, I'm him. He said, I'm him. Who was that, Kevin?
Austin Reeves, baby.
Austin Reeves. Apparently, LeBron has known since Austin Reeves' very first practice that Austin Reeves was him and that he wasn't going to be a two-way player for long. But I mean, to be fair, we saw Austin Reeves go crazy at times at Oklahoma. It's just Oklahoma wasn't one of those top teams in the nation when he was in college like they were when Buddy Hield was around, and he didn't get that spotlight, at least for people who aren't locked into college basketball, because I think those who were locked into college basketball knew and have known who Austin Reeves is. But for people like me, at least, I don't really pay attention to men's college basketball very much. And so Austin Reeves, when he first came onto the Lakers as a two-way player, that's when I first really got to know him. And man, he has made an impact in the league so far. And so what do you think of Austin Reeves' outlook for the rest of his career? Because people are saying, oh, he's earning himself a lot of money right now, but is he going to be a guy? Is he going to be like a guy like Duncan Robinson, where you're on fire, you get paid 5 years, $90 million, and then you're back to the bench because you fall out of the rotation for whatever reason? Miami has an interesting system and the way that Spoelstra operates. So I think that extra context is important for how Duncan Robinson fell out of the rotation. But what's your overall outlook on how you think Austin Reeves' career is going to go for the rest of his career?
I think it all depends on where he lands. You know, in free agency, he's got to get as an undrafted player, he can only get, I think, about $50 to $75 million. So it's a cheap bargain, you know, for a hell of a player. He could be a rotation player on a championship team. So, like I mentioned, it just kind of depends on where he falls. But if he stays with the Lakers, I can see him being a sixth man of the year. You know, if I feel like they can bring in better talent, and then he'll be moved to the bench, but he can also fill up in that starter role. So I honestly see him as a Jordan Poole kind of role, but way better defender, because Jordan Poole is a lost guy out there. We'll talk more about that when we talk about the series, but I think that'd be a good comparison of where his career could go.
So Rui Hachimura, Austin Reeves, Anthony Davis, and LeBron James, they all scored over 20 points in the Lakers' 128-112 win against the Grizzlies in Game 1. They're the first group of 4 players on the Lakers to score over 20 points in the playoffs since Byron Scott, James Worthy. I'm sorry. I had it. I took a picture of my TV and it's extremely blurry, so I can't even read those names. I thought I had a good ass stat, but I can't even read it, so I apologize. But one stat that is important to remember is that the Lakers have won their last 24 best of 7 series after winning Game 1, which is the longest streak in NBA history. And you know, I agree with you, Kevin, that I think that they will ultimately end up winning this series as well. I heard something that you said about Austin Reeves, where you said he could be a role player on a championship winning team. I mean, you think that ends up happening this year, right?
Well, shit. I mean, he's essentially their point guard. You know, D'Angelo Russell's more of a 2, so he's a starting point guard for the Los Angeles Lakers. So just doing that alone is a big deal. And I didn't know the Detroit Pistons actually drafted him at 47, and he told them no. The Lakers told him before the draft, we'll give you a 2-way. So he said, if I'm going 2-way anywhere, I'm going to the Lakers. So for him to just have that confidence in himself, man, and it just shows in his game, man, that he believes in himself. And for him to be mic'd above all the people on the Lakers just goes to show that he's becoming a crowd favorite, man. And, you know, AR-15 is a real deal.
That's honestly hilarious, but you know, I would do the same thing, and I think he's a very smart man, and it's paying off. So we shall see how he continues to play throughout these playoffs, and whether if it was an anomaly or not, which I certainly don't think it was, because he proved throughout the regular season that he was made for these moments. And that's what he said in the post-game interview when Lisa Salters was saying, like, what's it like for you to do this in a playoff game? And he's like, this is what you play the game for. I mean, you played basketball on a much higher level than I ever did, Kevin. And I would imagine coming up, like, these were the moments that you were aspiring to get to one day, I would imagine.
Definitely. And he mentioned in his interview that he's about like an hour and a half away from the game. So he said he had about 120 people there. So it's basically a homecoming for him, growing up as a Grizzlies fan, to go do that for the opposing team with the Lakers on your chest. It was just a dream come true for every hooper, and for him to do undrafted and be a two-way, and just to see his growth from this season to last season to this season is incredible, man. So Austin Reeves you got to believe the hype, man.
I completely agree. You definitely got to believe the hype. And something else that people should start believing the hype on, the national media is starting to get a little taste and a little experience as to what we have been seeing since October, Kevin. And that is that the Sacramento Kings are a damn good basketball team, as the Sacramento Kings, who are the 3 seed in the Western Conference, currently hold a 2-0 lead over the 6 seed defending NBA champions. Oh yeah, the 4-time champions in the last 8 seasons. The dynasty that is the Golden State Warriors. The Sacramento Kings held down home court, and they have a 2-0 lead in this series. I will just say real quickly, I went to game 1. I basically gutted the rest of my savings to even afford a ticket, but it was worth every single penny, and it was an experience that I had been waiting for my entire life. Kevin, I know that you got a little bit of a taste of it when you went to that clinching game in Portland, where you're located in Oregon, and I hope that you're able to make it to a Kings playoff game, because, man, that's especially at Golden One Center, like, it was absolutely magical, and we had the cowbells rocking.
Yeah, man. I've been telling everybody else, speaking into existence, man. When we make it to the second round and the Lakers come second round, I'm going to a game. I've gone to 2 Laker games in Portland, and LeBron's come on in the suit both times. So this is the only way to ensure LeBron James is going to play. So if everything works out the way Kevin's bracket looks like, I'm going to a game. I'm definitely going to go the next round.
Real quickly, just to circle back to the Lakers, because that is one thing that I forgot to mention, is when you brought up Anthony Davis saying that he couldn't move his shoulder, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so when that happened, I mean, my heart didn't drop or anything, because I don't have any ties to the Lakers. I hate the Lakers. So it's like, yeah, I don't want to see a guy get hurt, but I kind of wasn't fazed, and it was something that we kind of had all just been waiting on. But the thing about that I just wanted to emphasize is it just shows how quickly injuries can happen to anyone, but also how quickly they can happen to Anthony Davis, because this was only game 1. It's like knock on wood, I got a nice wooden desk right here. Knock on wood, I don't want Anthony Davis to get injured, but like, who knows? It could happen like in the first quarter of game 2, and then this series is suddenly back even. Actually, I don't know if I'd say even, because if John Morant is out and Anthony Davis is out, one team still has LeBron James, the other team doesn't. So I actually wouldn't say it's even. Yeah, I realized it in real time as the words were coming out of my mouth. But still, even in that hypothetical, like, do you think that the Lakers, as presently constructed, could beat the Kings in a 7-game series without Anthony Davis? Or even, for that matter, let's not put all our eggs in one basket. Do you think the Lakers could beat the Kings or the Warriors without Anthony Davis, or even the Grizzlies?
Without Anthony Davis, it's going to be hard. Jaren Jackson, like we saw, going up for 31 points, stepping in without John Morant as that all-star, proving that it wasn't a fluke. Defensive player of the year, averaging 3 blocks. He stepped up huge. So I think that would be a huge mismatch. But the Kings and the Warriors, I wouldn't say we have a opposing big man. Domantas Sabonis will go in there and bang. But for you guys to not have Anthony Davis, for the Lakers to not have Anthony Davis, it would be huge. For the Lakers, they run more small ball. Or the Warriors, they run a lot more small ball, so it wouldn't be bad there. But I definitely don't think they'd be able to beat the Grizzlies without Anthony Davis.
I got you. Well, I guess we shall see, and hopefully he can just stay healthy. That would just be the best case scenario in general. Yeah, for everyone, especially just like we're going to get to later with Giannis Antetokounmpo, Tyler Hero. It's injuries suck in general. And so you guys are all tuned in right now to episode number 25 of Stats Over Politics. Shaun Holko alongside Kevin Dent. Garry Singh will be joining us soon. Kevin, I don't know if you noticed this, but something new about Stats Over Politics this week is we are live on Twitter. We are live on YouTube. We are also live on Twitch. So if you stumbled upon our channel on Twitch, Stats Over Politics, it's Stats or Politics on Twitter. But if you have stumbled upon our Twitch channel here at Stats Over Politics, we really appreciate you. And we're going to be bringing much more content to Twitch in the coming weeks. So we appreciate you for tuning in. We usually record every single Monday night at 7 p.m. We moved it this week so then everyone could be locked into the Kings game and bring our top-notch analysis to this week's episode. And so keep an eye out for us on Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube. Make sure to give us a like on YouTube. It helps us grow a lot. If you like the show, hit subscribe to get notifications when we go live, just in case if we have a week like this week where we end up recording on a different day. You want to tap in with our live stream. You can follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Stats Over Politics and on Twitter at Stats or Politics. And if you're listening right now on audio, make sure to subscribe, rate, and review on all podcast platforms. If you're enjoying the show, give us 5 stars, as we would really appreciate it. As you're tuned in to episode number 25 of Stats Over Politics, Shaun Holko alongside Kevin Dent. Now, Kevin, let's get into the best series of the weekend. And I think I could objectively say that not even as a Sacramento Kings fan, because damn, it has just been some great basketball, and it's been great environments at the Golden One Center. The crowd has lived up to the hype. 17 years of pent-up frustration, and it's not like, I think that's the thing that a lot of the nation needs to understand. Everyone remembers that the Kings almost moved, but that's it. That's all they remember is, oh, the Kings almost moved. They remember it in one sentence. Oh, yeah, 10 years ago, the Kings almost moved. That's it. Okay. 17-year playoff drought. But like, we all lived through it. We all went through it. And I even got to watch Down in the Valley, the ESPN 30 for 30 documentary that was supposed to air right after the Kings opened their arena. I don't know if you ever heard about that or saw that. Okay. I got to send you the link. If it's still up on YouTube, that's like a must watch. But basically, the backstory of it was ESPN made a 30 for 30 about the Sacramento Kings and their fight to keep the team and their ultimate win to keep the team. And it was called Down in the Valley. And the centerpiece and the focus of the documentary was Kevin Johnson, because obviously Sacramento guy, went on to the NBA, had a great NBA career, and then became the mayor of his hometown city and saved their basketball team. But the reason why it never came out is because ESPN decided not to air it, because Kevin Johnson, at the end of his tenure as mayor, he had some allegations against him of misconduct. And whether if those were true or not, ESPN ultimately decided to scrap the documentary and never air it. But there were plenty of Kings fans who over the years have had a copy and had a DVD of this documentary because they were interviewed for it or whatever, or they got a burner copy from someone who was. And Kings fans have been holding on to it. I know of one Kings fan in specific. I'm not going to air him out there, but I know one Kings fan in specific that has been holding on to a copy of this and waiting to release it until the Kings finally broke the playoff drought and made it back. And man, I got to watch that documentary again for the second time right before the game on Saturday. And it was just so magical and just really just reminded me of how much the city loves this team and how much Blue loves this team and just how much we fought for this damn team and how it's not just a 17-year playoff drought, but it's everything else that went into it. And it just made Saturday just that much sweeter.
Yeah, man. Like we mentioned, we've been on the ups and the downs. The Kings were really good for us when we were a lot younger, and it just makes my heart happy to see little kids, being happy to be a Kings fan. I wish we could have had that experience, but we didn't. But just to see the city, rally behind them, and I bet just being in that atmosphere, I saw TikToks and game videos after the game, and I just couldn't imagine being in that atmosphere, with the cowbells. I know you probably saw the video on Twitter about the guy sitting behind Bob Myers, just going crazy in his ear, and I can just feel the atmosphere through the TV. And for Mike Brown to come out after game 2, playing for the Coach Tweet coach, to say that's probably the loudest arena he's played in, it says a lot, so the Kings are hungry for him, and the Kings are showing the love back. They're going out there and they're playing their hearts out night in and night out. We saw it in the regular season, and it's continuing to show in the playoffs.
I can't remember who said this. I've been listening and absorbing so much Kings content over the last 6 months but mainly over this last week, I've just been indulging myself in and listening to every post-game interview, all these media scrums. And I heard someone say within the team, I can't remember exactly who said it, but they said, yeah, like we heard Arco was loud. It was great. But I really think that Golden One Center topped it, and that it is continuing to top it, because Arco was more of a confined space, and the sound was able to travel a lot more. Golden One Center is a lot bigger. It's a lot more open, and it was still like crazy loud in there. And so I absolutely loved every single second of it. And real quickly, I just want to get to a couple of our comments here at youtube.com/ at stats over politics, as cousin Marcellus lets us know of his presence, as he always do. He said, I made it. Kings in 5. I'm going to stick with my Kings in 7 pick, but I love the enthusiasm, Marcellus. I'm pretty sure, just to give him his credit, before he starts raining on our comments saying, I said this already, I'm pretty sure Marcellus said this last week too, before the series even started. Just to let it be clear. So if the Kings do finish it off in 5, everyone remember that cousin Marcellus called it. Our guy Emiliano tapping in, saying Monk is better than Curry. I love the enthusiasm. I love the enthusiasm, but I personally won't go that far. But one thing I will say is that I was wrong. Our guy Javon isn't here with us this week, but years ago, Kevin, on Shaun and Vaughn, the previous iteration of our podcast, or our previous podcast, he told me Malik Monk was a monster. When he signed with the Lakers, he said, Malik Monk is a monster. I was like, maybe a monster of role players? Like, he's good. He's an NBA player. He has flashy plays, flashy dunks. I don't know if I would say he's a monster. I'd say he's a really good player. Javon was like, no, he is a monster. I've been watching him since before Kentucky. Like when he was on the AAU circuit, I saw highlights of him. He is a monster. And Javon had been telling me for years. I was in denial. And I get it. He's on my favorite team now. But even if Malik Monk was still playing for the Lakers, the team that I hate the most, if he was doing on the Lakers what he's been doing on the Kings, I would have admitted the same thing, that I was wrong. Malik Monk is a motherfucking monster. And I am so glad that the Lakers fumbled the bag and they disrespected him and they offered him the veterans minimum. So then we could pay him a little bit more. Come play with your bro. And now we see, even though he's in a 6-man role as Kevin Huerter is the starting 2 guard, Malik Monk is excelling, and he was made for this moment in the NBA playoffs, in his first playoff appearance. And so, Kevin, just real quickly, touching on Emiliano's comment, what do you think of the performance that we've seen from Malik Monk in these first 2 games?
Malik Monk has been doing his thing, like you mentioned, for his playoff debut to go out there for 32 points. Is the most by any reserve in the playoffs in their debut. Scoring 15 points in the second quarter was the most by a Kings reserve in the playoffs since the 1996-1997 season. Malik Monk has been doing his thing. We saw it, a lot of hit and miss throughout the regular season. He'd have a big game, and then he'd have a couple bad games, and he'd have another big game. So we've known he's explosive. So for him to come out and do it on the biggest stage in these first 2 games, man, just goes to show that the regular season wasn't a fluke. Reuniting him and De'Aaron Fox, man, is like the greatest combination since eggs and bacon. For them to come out there and do their thing just goes to show that it's going to be scary for the Kings in the playoffs. So I'm excited to see Malik Monk's growth. Him and De'Aaron Fox are their first set of college teammates to score 30-plus points in the same playoff game since Hakeem Olajuwon and Clyde Drexler.
2 Hall of Famers.
So it's crazy to see, but I'm happy to see the Kentucky reuniting in Sacramento, man. We have Trey Lyles. If all the Kentucky guys want to come to Sacramento, man, I don't have a problem with it.
So Stephen Curry had played in 28 career playoff series in his career without trailing 2-0 in a series. That's over now. Stephen Curry is trailing 2-0 for the first time in his career, which I just think is such a remarkable stat, as the Warriors are the 5th defending champion to trail 2-0 in a first-round series. And that streak that they had from 2013 to 2022 of most consecutive series without trailing 2-0 in NBA postseason history, that snapped. They have the record because the next closest was the Celtics from the 50s and 60s, which shows you how dominant of a record that was. But I mean, Kevin, we're both Sacramento Kings fans, but just objectively as basketball minds, we both picked the Sacramento Kings to win this series against the Warriors. But now that they're up 2-0 and they're halfway to accomplishing that goal, a lot of what we've been talking about is that this Warriors dynasty will come to an end eventually. We don't know when, but it will come to an end eventually. It can't last forever. And so, do you think seeing a record like that 28 playoff series streak that I just mentioned, do you think a record like that crumbling kind of just gives us more hope that this actually truly could happen and that the Kings could end this dynasty or at least send them home for this season?
No, definitely for the Kings to come on here and go up 2-0. A lot of people said we might have won one and we will split. But for us to come out there and assert that dominance, not only in game one and game two, go into the Chase Center, I feel really good about it. So if we can just get one of these games on the road, man, I think it's a real possibility. But if we definitely cannot go back to Sacramento tied 2-2. If we go back to Sacramento tied 2-2, it's good. It's a whole new series. Best of three.
Without a doubt. And you don't want that momentum to shift. And you mentioned Malik Monk and De'Aaron Fox accomplishing history that hadn't been done since Hakeem and Clyde. And De'Aaron Fox scored the second most points in a playoff debut in NBA history, only behind Luka Doncic in 2020, who scored 4 more points, but I think that has a little bit of an asterisk on it because it was in the bubble. And also, I learned something recently. Luka Doncic had played in the ABA playoffs, in the Euro playoffs when he was a pro as a teenager. And so Luka Doncic had played professional basketball in the playoffs before, just overseas. This was like, as my guy Damian Barling from D-Lo and KC said, I'm repeating something that he said because it was so good. So De'Aaron Fox has the most points ever in a real playoff debut. Not in the bubble, hasn't played in the overseas playoffs. De'Aaron Fox has the most points ever in a playoff debut as far as I'm concerned, with 38 points. 29 of those points came in the second half, which is a career high for De'Aaron Fox. And so now, Kevin, let's just get into both of these games because the Kings, they absolutely seemed overmatched coming into this series. I mean, Stephen Curry had 128 playoff starts coming into this series. Fox had 0. The Kings went 16 years, 350 days without a playoff win, was the second longest in NBA history. And for me, the real key point in game one came in the third quarter. There was about 10 minutes left, and the Kings trailed 67-57. The Warriors came out from the locker room. They increased their 6-point lead to 10. Things started to look rough, and like the Warriors were going to start one of those runs that we always fear and that we always talk about. But then that is when the clutch player of the year came to play, as De'Aaron Fox scored the Kings' next 10 points after having 9 total in the first half, leading the Warriors to call a timeout up 71-67 with 7 minutes and 17 seconds left. And I just think that De'Aaron Fox is solely the reason why they won game one. And he's been catching slander everywhere. But the thing I don't like about some of these strays is, and I got quotes. I literally took notes from someone's podcast because it really bothered me. And this is from the Right Time podcast with Bomani Jones. I don't know if any of you who are listening listen to Bomani Jones. I do. He started at ESPN. Now he's on HBO. But he's one of my favorite sports commentators to listen to. This is what he said. And he admitted this after saying that he was a casual when it came to watching the Sacramento Kings. He said this last Friday before the series started. He said, "I'm here to tell you now, if your plan is we're going to let De'Aaron Fox shoot us into games or score us into games, in the playoffs, he's more likely to score you out of them. And I have watched enough of his movies to feel confident saying that." That's coming from Bomani, who even admitted to being a casual when it comes to the Sacramento Kings. This is what his co-host Dominique Foxworth, former NFL corner, said in response. He said, De'Aaron Fox to be their number one offensive option. His penetration on all that is great. His athleticism, his explosiveness, but like him being the catalyst of the offense when it's not going through Sabonis, it's tough. That is fair. And he said, and we don't have to talk about that defense because they don't do that. Well, Dominique, coming into the playoffs, the Kings didn't play defense, but they sure have in these first 2 games of this series. And I just wanted to mention one more stat real quickly before I throw it back to you, Kevin. And this is mainly just a follow-up to Bomani's quote specifically, where he said, if you have to rely on De'Aaron Fox to score you into games, he's more likely going to score you out. Well, in the first 2 games of De'Aaron Fox's NBA playoff career, he has scored or assisted on 97 of the Kings' 243 points. 97 points he has scored or assisted on. He is the catalyst for this offense, and he is the reason why they are up 2-0 on the defending NBA champions.
100%, man. And I have another interesting thought throw out there. And in De'Aaron Fox's 2 first playoff games, he scored 62 points. That ties with Oscar Robertson. But it's funny because Oscar Robertson also has the first place with 70 points over first 2 games. So De'Aaron Fox and his impact has been outstanding. He's been the impact. He's been leading us away this whole season, and it's been carrying into the playoff. For him to shoot 50% from the mid range, game 2. Coming off that high pick and roll, man, it was the floater, back to back to back. If you can't stop it, why stop going to it? So for him to kind of come in there and do his thing, just goes to show that De'Aaron Fox is this leader. I know everyone would probably say before the season started that Sabonis was probably the better player, but I definitely think this is Fox's team. He's been here through the dog days. Sabonis got to come in, when we were on the up and up. So Fox has been here through it all, man. And I think it went about his rookie year, maybe his second year. He came out with that article saying, I'm going to be here on the streak ends. He said it, and now it's all coming to light, man. So De'Aaron Fox is just continuing to be that guy, man, and just leading the way for us when we need it. Like you mentioned, NBA Clutch Player of the Year, the inaugural winner. So you always got to remember De'Aaron Fox, and I'm just excited that he's doing it in Sacramento Kings jersey. A lot of people thought that he should have won instead of Tyrese, but I'm happy we got to keep De'Aaron Fox, and I'm happy we're at the place that we're at.
I'm a firm believer, and it's a cliche, but I'm a firm believer that everything happens for a reason. And so when things are going great in your life, you think everything happens for a reason. You're like, yeah, everything happens for a reason. But when things are going really bad, I honestly have to tell myself that nowadays, because I've learned that there's the ebbs and flows, and like I've seen like a meme of like a heart monitor, and it's showing how it goes up and down, and it's like if you don't have ups and downs in your life, then you're dead because the heart monitor isn't going. And like I personally was one of those people who I wasn't necessarily advocating for De'Aaron Fox to be traded, but I understood that it had to be one or the other eventually. And I thought Fox was going to be that guy who got traded because I figured keeping a guy who's on a rookie contract under team control. And also, I mean, Tyrese showed all those flashes that he continues to show in Indiana, and he is an all-star for a reason. But I thought Fox was going to be the guy, and I was shocked. I mean, Javon and I were recording Shaun and Vaughn when the trade went down, and I basically was just saying what for like 15 minutes because I didn't have any other words. But I completely agree with you that I'm so glad that De'Aaron Fox ended up being the one to stay because, Tyrese, he loves Sacramento. He made Sacramento his home. He like surrounded himself with everything that is Sacramento. He was wearing so many Sacramento clothing lines, and like he made it his home. But it hits different, the fact that like De'Aaron Fox has been here longer, and that he said that as a rookie, and that he went through years of struggle. And we thought that they were going to finally break through in 2020 when they were in the bubble, and he put up 37 points against the Spurs in that opening game of the bubble. And we thought that the Kings were going to break the playoff drought then, and they didn't. And so he's been a part of the struggle, and I think he gets it. And I love his family. The fact that his wife Ruse is constantly all about donating tickets to fans and like rewarding like the loyal fans who don't act crazy on Twitter and all that. Like I just love the Fox family in general, and I'm just so glad to see things culminating like we all hoped it would for De'Aaron Fox. And these first 2 games have been awesome. I wanted to just get to some of my favorite things and some notes that I took from game 2. So the Kings started 0 of 11 from 3. And that's when they were trailing 23-17 after the first quarter yesterday against the Warriors in game 1. And things were looking a little rough, but Mike Brown has continued to reiterate in all of his interviews when a journalist says, hey, your team isn't shooting the 3 ball that well, he says, I don't care. Keep chucking it. We're going to keep chucking it. And it's because he knows that his team needs to match the Warriors in 3-point attempts, kind of like the Houston Rockets tried to do in that series back in 2017. And my favorite play from this game came in the second quarter when Malik Monk was in transition. He did a 360 and then he shot a 3 and drained it. Like, absolutely magical. Davion's threes and his throughout his defense through the first 2 games. Like, we expected Davion's defense, but man, he has been knocking down those threes, something he could not do consistently to save his life this past regular season. And so before we keep it moving, I just wanted to ask you, what do you think of the performance that we've seen from Davion Mitchell through these first 2 games?
I saw something interesting on Twitter comparing him and Jonathan Kuminga, both being lottery picks 2 years in, and they're both on their teams and their respective roles. Davion Mitchell is not looking too bad, man. I know Jonathan Kuminga is on a championship team, and they have that pedigree and just a good environment to be around as a rookie. But Davion Mitchell, man, is showing that he can do his thing, man. He wasn't nicknamed Off Night for no reason. When he was guarding Steph Curry in Game 2, he had 2 steals, forced it from 2 of 9 from the field and 1 of 7 from 3. So they don't call him Off Night for nothing. And like you mentioned, he essentially sealed the game with that 3 with about 1:10 left maybe in that corner, drifted off into the bench, and it looked like he was good as soon as it left his hands. So for his impact to come in right off from the jump and to get steals and just have his impact on both sides of the field, on both sides of the court, went huge for us in that win.
Yeah, I've absolutely loved what we have seen from Davion Mitchell, a guy that you mentioned earlier. Trey Lyles had an amazing game 1. And some of my friends and I, when we were at the game, one of my friends said, build Trey Lyles a statue. I mean, if things continue the way that they are, let's just build a statue of our 3 Kentucky guys. Like, let's just put them all on one together, have Fox stand in the middle with his arms crossed, looking tough. No, Fox can't do that. Fox has to go like this, because that's what he does in all of the defensive player of the game photos with what is this with the horns?
Houston,
horns up. Yeah.
Oh,
okay, Houston. Yeah. He is from Houston.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. It's a Houston. Now, okay, that totally makes sense. And so the Warriors, they haven't trailed 2-0 in a series since 2006 in the second round against the Utah Jazz. And this is the Kings' first 2-0 series lead since 2004 against the Dallas Mavericks, a series in which they won in a gentleman's sweep 4-1. And also, this is my favorite stat of them all here on Stats Over Politics, is that teams that go up 2-0 in a best-of-7 series in the NBA playoffs are 308-26 in those series in terms of closing them out. That means that 91% of teams that are up 2-0 in a series end up finishing it off and win the series. And, that just makes me excited, Kevin. And so now let's just stay on this Warriors and Kings series, but let's get to the breaking news that we found out about 30 minutes ago. Draymond Green has been suspended for Game 3 of this first round series after stomping on Domantas Sabonis' chest in Game 2. To be fair, Domantas Sabonis, he kind of hooked Draymond's ankle, but that wasn't the worst of what we have seen throughout this series. I mean, in Game 1, we saw the play in the fourth quarter when Draymond hooked the hamstring of Domantas and then just I was about to lean away from the mic. He just leaned away into Domantas and put all his body weight on him, forcing Domantas to fall. And then when Sabonis was trying to get up, Draymond kind of just spread himself out even more and did a 5-star and just tried to just keep Sabonis down on the court. And so, and Draymond said that Malik held his ankle apparently in game 1. And so this series is getting a little chippy. And so I just wanted to ask you first and foremost, we did get our initial reactions to this news, but do you think that this is warranted and that Draymond should be suspended, or was it enough that he got ejected and kicked out of this game? And I can talk about the stats of what the game was like after Draymond got ejected, but it was a big loss for the Warriors, obviously. And so do you think that this additional game suspension was warranted?
100%, man. You just can't go stomping people out, man. People. He could have broke a rib. You don't know what could have happened. That could have caused serious injuries to his lungs, to his heart, depending on what side of his chest got stepped on. It could have went a long way. And Draymond Green has the reputation of, with the LeBron James, the Steven Adams, and the list goes on and on. He has a reputation. So to now not only have that reputation, but for you to do this, I definitely think it was warranted. And I knew he was getting suspended from the jump. Like I mentioned, he has a history. So for you to have that history and then for you to continue to just say, I'm Draymond Green, I get to do what I want, that's not how the world works. So I hope I've been waiting for the podcast to drop, man. He upset our locker room early last night. So I was hoping the emergency podcast, I was waiting for it, but we never got it. And now that he's suspended for game 3, I'm sure we're going to have to wait again. So tag me the next time you drop a podcast, Draymond. I'm tuned in, man.
Man, I was locked in, especially after game 1. Like, I tuned in right away. I listened to that 15 minutes. I enjoyed it very much. I mean, Draymond was at the very beginning of his game 1 podcast. He was saying, yeah, I don't want to hear you guys talking about how we lost and how I shouldn't be podcasting. We lost in last year's playoffs and then we won the NBA Finals. So I don't want to hear about that no more. It's like, hey, Draymond, I am more than happy to hear your post-game podcast after a Kings win and a Dubs loss. Light the fucking beam. I mean, I will say this. I don't think it was warranted. I think that this was a statement by the NBA. Adam Silver was at the game last night in Sacramento. We saw that video of a Kings fan ringing the cowbell right behind Bob Myers' head, the GM of the Warriors. I don't know if that happened to Adam Silver, but Adam Silver was there in the crowd. He was among the 17,000 plus. And there was a photo taken of Adam Silver basically as Draymond's antics were going. I don't know if it was taken during the stomp, during when Draymond was giving the bird and saying, fuck you to all the Kings fans and saying, come here, pussy, as he was trying to instigate the fans to run up on him and ultimately get kicked out because he knows that he has security guards standing right there in front of him. And he's channeling his best WWE superstar, thinking that he's a heel. And so I don't know when exactly the photo was taken, but I know it was taken during Draymond's antics last night, and Silver didn't look happy at all. And so I think that this is a statement made and a suspension made on reputation. If this was an isolated incident, let's say the roles were reversed and Domantas Sabonis did this to Draymond Green, I think it would have been enough for Sabonis to be ejected from that game. In that hypothetical, the Kings lose. And, because the thing I didn't like about that 2016 NBA Finals is then that gave Draymond a talking point and an excuse saying, if I didn't get suspended for game 5, we would have never lost that series and we would have won 4 NBA Finals in a row. No, Draymond, you lost because Kyrie and LeBron James scored 40 points each in a game 5. And then they went crazy in game 6 and game 7 and you fucking lost. Okay. And I just know the next podcast that we hear from Draymond, he's going to be chirping about, like, especially if and when the Kings do win this series, man, if I never got suspended for game 3, we would have won game 3, won game 4, gone back to Sac with the momentum, won game 5. Then we would have gone back to San Francisco, won game 6. We would have closed them out in 6. But I got suspended. It's a conspiracy against me. Adam Silver hates me. And just to end my diatribe here, I think that the punishment was enough for him to get kicked out of that game. I also think that the punishment was appropriate for Domantas to get a technical for grabbing the ankle because it was kind of obvious. It was playoff antics. I mean, Sabonis said it after the game. He was just like, it's playoff basketball. It is what it is. But I mean, Sabonis did say, like, there is no place for that in our game, talking about Draymond straight up going stomp the yard on his chest. And so I think that the ejection was enough, and so I disagree. I don't think that this was necessary, but I think the reason why I feel this way so strongly is I just know that this is like a scapegoat for Draymond and the Warriors and all of their ignorant and arrogant fans that we are finally shutting up. Now they're going to have a talking point. Just like, I mean, Kevin, you can relate to this better because you're on the winner side of this. But back to the Eagles and 49ers. I mean, Brock Purdy getting hurt so early in that game, it kind of gave us 49ers fans a scapegoat where we're like, oh, you should have at least just seen us with a healthy quarterback because we didn't have a healthy quarterback in that game. And that was the scapegoat for 49ers fans like myself. Now I feel like plenty of other people in the Bay Area who are also root for the Warriors, they're going to have that excuse and that scapegoat to say, oh, if Draymond never got suspended, then the Warriors would have come back and won that series. And so what do you think about all of that and its ramifications?
Honestly, I can give a damn about a Warriors fan. We had to go through the dynasty, did them never losing a series in the West, them just running through everybody, just making it not even fair. To not only go 73-9, but to add Kevin Durant, an arguably top 10 player the next 3 seasons. And if he doesn't get hurt and Klay Thompson doesn't get hurt, they're up there with the Lakers with a 3P and the Bulls. So they can say whatever they want. There's always going to be a talking point. There's always going to be excuses. But especially because we're seen, in the Northern California area, we're seen as the little brother. The Golden State Warriors and it's the Kings. We're not too far from each other, but we're always seen as a little dog. So there was always going to be things. We had YouTube comments, saying that the Kings weren't ready. The Warriors are this, the Warriors are that. So for us to come out here and do this, they can say it's because of Draymond, but Draymond Green had 8 points in game 2, and I can't tell you how many points he had in game 1. So it's not like Draymond's going out there and putting up triple doubles and 4 or 5 steals. Draymond's kind of just another guy, another screen setter at this point. So they can say what they want, but if the Kings are able to do it, the Kings are able to do it. They beat them twice with Draymond.
So let me ask you this then, because the stat that I was alluding to is that in the fourth quarter, before Draymond Green was ejected, the Kings had scored 8 points. They were 3 of 8 from the field, 38%. They had 3 rebounds. Then Draymond was suspended with about 7 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. So we were nearly halfway through that fourth quarter. The Kings had scored 8 points. Then Draymond gets suspended, and over the final 7 minutes, the Kings scored 23 points. They were 10 of 15 from the field, a much more efficient 67% from field goal, and they had 7 rebounds. And so I do think that it was a significant difference for the game in Draymond getting ejected. And so the follow-up question that I had for you is, and this is something that we talked about coming into the series. Now, just focusing on game 3, Draymond will not be there. We know that that's a fact. Kevon Looney is going to be on an island by himself. He has done well, and I think that Draymond and Kevon Looney have done a good job on Domantas Sabonis so far throughout this series. But we saw in game 2, when Looney got in foul trouble, that's when things got really tough for the Warriors, where they put Jonathan Kuminga in. He gets played off the floor because he gets absolutely bullied by Domas. And so how do you think Draymond's suspension is going to affect game 3? Do you think that the Kings end up winning game 3 now when they might not have, when the Warriors are absolutely desperate in that situation at home?
I think it plays into the Kings' favor for sure. When, like you mentioned, when Looney went down with 5 fouls, Draymond Green is essentially the backup big man. I don't even think they have another big man on the roster besides Draymond. So they're small in the front court, and the Kings were able to get them into the penalty early in the third quarter. And to have that in the third quarter with 10 minutes left just goes to show that the Warriors foul a whole lot. And to now going into the game knowing you're not going to have Draymond Green just goes to show that if they would have just stuck it out with James Wiseman, they would have had that backup big, and it could have had a huge impact. But going into game 3, as long as the Kings keep doing what we're doing, man, the past 2 games we've had multiple guys in double-digit scoring. We've won both of the rebounding battles. In game 2, we were able to win it 58-46, and we had 11 steals to their 4. So we're doing it on the defensive end. I know people think that Sacramento is this team that's just going to score a whole bunch of points, and we're just going to try to outscore opponents. But we were able to hold Golden State in game 2 to 32% from 3. And Steph Curry shot 5 of 16, I believe, and Klay Thompson shot 4 of 17 from three. So for those two best 3-point shooters in the NBA, arguably, for us to go out there and give them a hard night for this past 2 games, I think we're just going to be able to roll into game 3. I feel like it's going to be a game of runs, just like they've always been, playing at home with that energy. They've won championships on that floor. So I know it's going to be a crazy place to play in, but if the Kings can rally and, keep their composure like Harrison Barnes said, when a reporter asked them what he's given to them, what experiences or knowledge he's given to them, just staying where your feet are. It's game 3. Let's just stay here. Let's not worry about game 4, game 5. Let's just worry about here. And it's 0-0. We're just going to do what we can do. Feel the roar, baby.
Yeah, we are feeling the roar. Oh, nope, he got scared. He disappeared. Well, for our audio-only listeners, our guy Garry just showed up in the stream, and right when I was about to add him, as he was displaying his beautiful Game 1 shirt, he decided to have a toddy moment and dip out on us. So dip out of the stream, that is, due to technical difficulties. So Garry will be back with us in just a moment. And so, yeah, that's something that's really interesting about it. And so now that the kind of follow-up question to that, Kevin, is will the Kings sweep the defending NBA champions? Not can they, not could they. Will they finish the job and win these next 2 games to complete the sweep? Yes or no, and why?
So there's a world where I see it, and then there's reality. I just don't think Steph Curry is going out like that. If you're going to say this is how the dynasty ends, I don't think anyone will tell you they end on a sweep. But like you mentioned, out of the past defending champs, 5 of them have lost in the first round, and 4 of them got swept. So it's hard to fall in that category, but I definitely think it can happen. But like I mentioned, Steph Curry is going to have one of those games where he goes off for 60, 70 points, maybe in game 4. If we go 3-0, luckily. I just think with everything against the wall, they have nothing to lose. They're playing for the reputation, and they don't want it to end that way. So at least they're going on a high note. Like I mentioned, we've been viewed as their little brother. So I think they're going to try to do whatever they can to make sure they avoid the sweep. But I can definitely see it happening.
Uncle Manny says Kings in 5, and I think I'm going to agree with Uncle Manny because as much as I would love to be optimistic, I mean, it's understandable why I'm not based on the last 17 years. But so as someone who is going to be there for game 4, I'm a little worried about what I'm going to see now because Game 3, Draymond's not going to be there. I think there's a much better chance for the Kings to win than they might have had going into Game 3 with Draymond there. And so now if the Warriors are trailing 3-0 going into Game 4 on their home floor, like you said, if this is the end of the dynasty or at least the end of this season, they're not going to go out like that and get swept, or at least they're going to try their hardest not to. And so I agree with Uncle Manny that I think that right now, the Kings look like they could finish it out in 5, but I'll always stick with my original pick, and that was the Kings to win this series in 7 games. So now we bring in the third member of our crew, and I want to ask you, Garry, fresh off of the lacrosse field, do you think the Kings will end up sweeping the defending NBA champions?
No, what's up, guys? What's up? I know I was in here for a second. Quick, a little complication here, but
hey, you dipped out on us.
Quick. I know, right? Copped in quick. Kings in 4. That sounds like a good hype train to hop on, but nah, we ain't gonna say that. The champs got to get one. Even though I'm pretty sure you guys seen the news that Draymond Green is suspended for Game 3 officially, but I do think they got heart of the champion, so they got to get at least one. If they can't get one, I'll be shocked. They got to get one. 4, oh, that's gonna be. It's gonna be looking good for. Hey, where's Emiliano at? That championship run actually looks kind of sounding good then.
Yeah, feel the roar. It's extremely exciting. And before we moved on from the Kings and Warriors first 2 games, Garry, since you're joining us in perfect timing, did you just want to get any thoughts that you have about the Kings and Warriors first 2 games? You were there at the arena checking it out, and so what did you see and what did you like from the Kings in those first 2 games?
From Game 1, I would say my takeaway is that I think both games really haven't played our best game, and that both games have been nip and tuck. And what I think I love most about our Kings right now, what they've been doing, they've been hitting on all cylinders, and when they get been punched in the mouth, when Curry goes on a little run, if Clay hits back-to-back threes, then yeah, we're still answering back. And I think that's the thing. I think we all had that one scare in the beginning of the series. Like, if we get slapped in the mouth in the beginning, are we going to be able to answer anything back? Or can we hit first? And I feel like the Kings have been doing that. We've been playing physical, which everyone's been knocking us all years, our defense. And so far, so good. Looking right now on the Warriors, we're able to go. We're playing good guard play right now. Give Alex Len some credit. He's been punching some great minutes. I think Sabonis, even last game, I still think he can even play better than he's especially. I know he came back as a better game in game 2, but I think even game 3, he's still missing a couple bunnies that he usually gets, so I expect him to have a big presence, especially since Draymond Green's officially out. I feel like he's going to have a bigger game in Game 3 now, too. Fox is showing what he got today. Congratulations, Swipe of the Fox, for getting that Clutch Award of the Year, the first ever recipient of that award. And, man, like, he proved it again in the playoffs. I know that's a regular season award, but he proved it again in the playoffs time and time again. He's been scoring in the fourth quarter, and he's been getting help, especially with Davion Mitchell doing his thing defensively against Curry. So I just feel like we're forcing the Warriors right now to tough shots. I feel like they still have a good game plan against us. I don't think we're out the wall. I don't think we should be celebrating too much, act like we won the championship or anything like that. We handle business at home. The Warriors are not going to be caught sleeping. They're still going to be fighting. They look cool, calm, and collected still, even with everyone just saying, oh, you guys never been down 2-0 and things of that nature. If any team can come back other than a LeBron team, it would be a Curry team. It would be a Warrior team. So I would just, I think we're level-headed too. We got a lot of vets like Harrison Barnes, which, nope, somebody wanted to trade in midseason. I think both of you, I don't remember. But he's helping us as one of our main vets on this team. So
It's definitely very exciting without a doubt. And so now, guys, officially transitioning to the formal announcement of De'Aaron Fox winning something that we all knew halfway through the season he was a lock to win, and that is the inaugural Kia Clutch Player of the Year award, as Garry was just mentioning. And so, Kevin, we briefly touched on this earlier, but what was your reaction when you found out that De'Aaron officially won Clutch Player of the Year, the inaugural award?
Man, I was excited to hear it, man. We saw him, like Garry mentioned. We've seen what he's done. I'll never forget, man, watching that Orlando game live. He took 2 dribbles past half court and let it go for the game winner, and he hit it. So he's been clutch for us all season and carrying us throughout the way. But I got an interesting stat for you guys. We're going to turn this into a little Kevin's Pop quiz. So with De'Aaron Fox winning the Clutch Player of the Year award, scoring 194 clutch points, who are the other 3 players that finished in the top 4?
I actually just seen
Go
it
ahead.
Too. It was on TNT. Go ahead, though. I think Dame was one of them, right?
Nope.
SGA?
Nope.
SGA. No.
It was, oh my God, it was DeRozan.
Yes.
DeRozan
159.
and it was another mid-range killer.
Kawhi Leonard?
No, Kawhi was that. No, Kawhi don't play enough games.
No, Kawhi. Yeah, I'll tell you, you just read my mind. He doesn't play enough. Who's the other 2?
Go ahead,
Garry. I thought you just saw this. I thought you were about.
I did see it. I forgot. I've been doing a lot of things since that time.
So it's De'Aaron Fox with 194, DeMar DeRozan with 159.
Okay,
playoff Jimmy Butler with 151. Jalen Brunson with 131.
Ah, dude, Jalen Brunson was
Jalen
Brunson was the one name that popped up in my head, but I was just like, nah, Julius Randle's eating into that. But, man, anytime that I ask any of my friends like sports trivia questions and like I can tell that they got it, but then they start to doubt themselves. That was a moment that I just had within myself, and
I did say mid-range killer.
I'm kicking myself for that, man. Because that was Kevin. When you said that, that was literally the only name that popped up in my head was like Jalen Brunson, because I know he's been on a tear, and so that was the only name. Shame on me. And just getting to some more stats about De'Aaron Fox being the first Clutch Player of the Year in NBA history. This season, he finished first in clutch points, like by a mile. We talked about that stat a couple weeks ago where he's like way up here, and then there's maybe like 80 points in between, and then the person in second place. He had 59.2% on field goals in the clutch, and so that's about 53% shooting. On I guess in the clutch is games that are less than 5 minutes and separated by less than 5 points is what the parameters are for it to be in a clutch situation to qualify for this. He is first in fourth quarter buckets in the NBA and scored the most. Actually, let me just hold on to that one for just a moment, because guys, Garry finally showed up. I'll give that one to Kevin. Garry finally showed up and joined us, and now, guys, it's time. We missed it last week because we ran out of time, but we back. Shaun's Pop Quiz, and this week, guys, it's Kings playoff edition of Shaun's Pop Quiz. Congratulations, Garry. You made it for Shaun's Pop Quiz. So you have a chance to climb up the leaderboard, because after 24 episodes, the leaderboard is as follows. Kevin has 12, Javon has 10, and Garry has 8. So, Garry, you can at least make some progress on Javon for second place. Or maybe you can end up tying him if you get your question and you steal Kevin's. So, Kevin, I will let you Kevin, I have a feeling Kevin's going to get this, but I already told him that I was going to ask him this question. So here we go.
So you
De'Aaron Fox. I mean,
he said half of it.
I already
say that for Toddy's question. Say that for Toddy's question.
All right.
So at least Garry has a shot out of it.
Okay. All right. Sounds good.
Thanks, Garry, for being fair. Appreciate it.
Oh, yeah, he said half the question. That's the only reason why.
I kind of already revealed what I'm about to ask. Okay. So here is Kevin's question. This player had past tense. This player had lost 14 straight playoff games officiated by Scott Foster. And I'll read the question.
He's a Kings player?
No.
No,
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I forgot that I put Kings playoff edition on there.
I'm like, this is a Kings. I got this answer. Then I got to steal. No,
it's my question.
You gotta let him at least answer it first, because it's his question.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
I feel like it's the obvious one.
So, Shaun,
is it Chris Paul?
It is Chris Paul.
I know they have that obvious beef. I'm like, man, it's not.
I apologize for. Yeah, go ahead, Garry.
No, was he a referee tonight, right? Or no?
Yeah, he was, and so the streak came to an end tonight.
Oh yeah, because I seen a little bit like a meme page. I don't don't use Twitter, but I don't know. I've been getting random ass notifications. Some meme page popped up, says Scott Foster to Chris Paul. I'm gonna get you tonight. I was like, they must be playing tonight then.
Exactly. And so, all right. So Kevin gets the point. He's now
layup.
Up to 13. Yeah. Well, we'll see if this is a layup for you then, Garry. So this is I mean, because actually now let me just switch this back now. We're back to Kings. So just so you guys know, this question is about the Kings and Toddy's question is about the Kings. So there have been 2 Kings to go 14 for 14 or better from the foul line in the Sacramento era. And this is in the playoffs. Malik Monk did that in game 1 versus the Golden State Warriors, when Malik Monk nailed 14 of 14 free throws from the line in a playoff game. It's happened one other time in Sacramento era history, Garry. Name the player who has done it other than Malik Monk.
I feel like this is probably on the NBC Sports broadcast too. Mike Bibby. I'm just gonna guess Mike Bibby.
Is that your final answer?
Yes, sir.
That is incorrect. Kevin, a chance to steal. Kevin had a smirk the entire question.
Yeah, I feel like he knew.
I think there was just one or two people, and since it wasn't Bibby, that was my second guess. I'm gonna go with Peja.
Oh, damn! That was a second guess, and the second guess, ding, 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 was correct. Peja Stojakovic made 14 of 14 free throws in Game 4 in 2001 versus the Suns.
Remember. When I think Peja would go to the line so much, I was thinking Mike Bibby, driving to the lane. Maybe I was thinking White Chocolate too, but I was like, I don't think he played that many playoff games with us before he got traded. But so yeah.
Well, Peja was here for a while. Jason Williams was the one who wasn't here for a long time.
Yeah,
Jason Williams was here for
yeah.
I gotcha. I'm sorry if I misheard you there. I love this instrumental that I got for Shaun's Pop Quiz. Anyways, finishing things out, Javon's question for this week, and for those of you who are new to Stats Over Politics, When one of our co-hosts misses it, it gives the opportunity to the other two or whoever else is on the podcast that week to answer the question. So as I'll be staring down at my phone, the first person that I hear call for it will get first cracks at this question. So I mentioned how De'Aaron Fox has won the inaugural Clutch Player of the Year, spelled with a C, not a K, even though he does play for Clutch. And De'Aaron Fox scored the most clutch points in the NBA this season with 194, which is the most since this player. Oh, okay.
No,
all right. Well,
Lillard.
Audio only listeners, Gary put his hand up first. He says Damian Lillard. Is that your final answer?
Yep, I was hoping you asked who was on the award because I know who was on there, Jerry West. But anyways,
yeah, that ain't it. Cause okay, Damian Lillard was Gary's answer, and unfortunately, that was incorrect. Good guess.
You said what year
incorrect.
that this person did this?
I just said who was the player. So I'll repeat it one more time. De'Aaron Fox has scored 194 clutch points this season, which is the most since this player.
Kobe?
I was about to say that's the next person I was going to say.
That is incorrect. And Kevin, you are going to be kicking yourself in the rear end because it is the first time since 2018 when LeBron James had the most clutch points in the NBA. Kevin, when I almost gave this stat like 10 minutes ago, I thought you were going to get it just because it was a LeBron thing. But yeah, LeBron in 2018 was the last player in the NBA to score more clutch points than De'Aaron Fox. So that just shows you the category that De'Aaron Fox has put himself in this season. Any final thoughts, guys, on De'Aaron Fox winning the Clutch Player of the Year award?
No, I think everyone. I just feel like hopefully he gets more respect and people start noticing more and more.
Without a doubt, as we feel the roar. I love Gary's shirt. I got mine in the other room. And with that completes Shaun's pop quiz for the week. So thank you guys for participating as always. I appreciate it as we keep things moving here on episode number 25 of Stats Over Politics. You're either watching us on Twitter, Twitch, or YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure to give us a like on this stream. It helps us grow a lot. If you like the show, hit subscribe to get notifications when we go live. You can follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Stats Over Politics and on Twitter at Stats or Politics. If you're tuned into audio right now, make sure to give us a subscription, a rating, a review on whichever podcast platform you enjoy listening to. And give us 5 stars, please, as I am Shaun Holko alongside Kevin Dent and Gary Singh here on episode number 25 of Stats Over Politics. I didn't ignore this question. I just wanted to revisit it when we had a break in topics. And so I want to ask this question of you guys real quickly before we move on from our Sacramento Kings completely, because earlier, Gary, I was talking about how I got to watch the Down in the Valley documentary. And Down in the Valley, have you heard about Down in the Valley, Gary?
No, I have not.
So Down in the Valley is a ESPN 30 for 30 documentary that was made about the Kings and their fight to keep the team and ultimately keeping the team.
Oh, I think I seen a little bit of that. Okay.
Yeah, the main centerpiece of it was Kevin Johnson because of the allegations that he faced at the end of his mayoral tenure. I think I said that right. It never saw the light of day. But anyways, I got to watch that before game 1 on Saturday because a Kings fan posted it to YouTube since we broke the drought. And so anyways, I was talking about how we fought to keep the team and Vivek was the guy to keep us here. And Uncle Manny asked an important question that I didn't address, Kevin didn't address. And so now I'll let you address it first and then we'll all go around. Do you think Vivek should get credit for keeping the Kings in Sacramento? Like, obviously he kept them in Sacramento, but he's also done a lot of meddling and he's been partially the reason why it's taken them so long to make the playoffs since he became the owner. And so do you think he deserves credit for this season, Gary?
Yeah, I feel like everyone played a part in changing the culture in Sacramento, and Vivek is the head of the snake in the organization, and he hired Mike Brown and hired Monty McNair and so forth to turn the organization around. Yeah, he was obviously part of a drought too prior to, but before he even bought the team, this team was already not in the playoffs and not already in contention due to the Maloofs and what hirings and actions they made, decisions they made. So I think that, just like any situation, when things going bad, he got blamed. And when things going good, you get the credit. So I think he's going to be a part of that. And he should be a part of that because he's helping our team and have giving the right people, putting the right people in position. And that's what usually the best owners do. If you look across any sports, usually the best owners are the ones that usually put the right people in place to make basketball decisions. And I feel like he's been doing a great job at that.
Yeah, those are great points that you made. And to be honest, I apologize because I realized after that I probably should have recused you from that question. And so now, Kevin, I asked the same question to you. Do you think that Vivek should get credit for not saving the team, because obviously he should, but for this playoff season that we've seen from the Kings?
He has to, man. Like Garry mentioned, he signed. He got his Mike Brown, and no one gets the okay if it's not for Vivek. He's the last call. It goes through everybody else. It goes to the GM, and goes to everybody else, but it stops at him. So if he says no, yes, then it goes through or not. So he definitely has to get his credit.
Without a doubt, because like you said, Vivek is the one who gave the green light on hiring Mike Brown. And, Vivek was also the guy who realized after a while with Vlade Divac that it just wasn't working and that he needed to let him go as much as they were buddies, and that he needed to just get a basketball mind in there. And that's exactly what he did with Monty McNair. He finally took a step back and he said, Monty, just like he said when he ended up buying the Kings and he hosted and they had that first regular season game in the Vivek era, where he says, "This is your city and this is your team," and it's like he basically said to Monty, like, "All right, Monty, this is your team." And I appreciate that he's actually taken that step back and truly let Monty guide the ship. And he's guided us to our first playoff appearance in 17 years.
Don't get it twisted, though, too. You got to think about it. No matter what owner lets you, like I said, handle the reins, they're still going to have the final decision and who's going to get paid and who's not, I feel like, going to get paid. So I feel like, you got to give him credit for that, too, for paying the right people, especially keeping Fox here and obviously letting the trigger get pulled to bring some bonus here. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's a great point. And also, let's not forget about all the other coaches that he's still paying right now. Luke Walton, Dave Yeager, still getting paychecks from the Sacramento Kings, and Vivek is the one.
As long as you pay Coach of the Year, man.
Hey, he's paying the Coach of the Year. Damn right, Garry. And so as we start to wind down here on Stats Over Politics, we still got about half of the playoffs to get to. So let's not waste any more time, guys. Let's get right to it. And let's get to a game and a series that just wrapped up and that just got tied. As the Clippers, as the 5 seed, they stole Game 1 in Phoenix against the Suns, but the Suns and Chris Paul overcame their Scott Foster demons, and they just tied the series at 1. So, I will say that I was already wrong. I said last week that the Clippers would get swept. I forgot about playoff Kawhi Leonard because he has lowered my expectations so much based on what we have seen in the regular season that I was like, and I know how great Kawhi Leonard truly is, but I thought if Paul George could get 2 games from the Suns by himself without Kawhi Leonard a couple years ago, and that was against a Suns team without Kevin Durant, with Kevin Durant, I just didn't see any way that the Clippers could win a game in the series, but they did. Kawhi got the job done in Game 1. And so, Kevin, I want to throw it to you first on this one. We all picked the Suns to win this series, but do you think that the Clippers actually have a fighting shot to maybe pull off the upset in the entire series?
I wouldn't be surprised, man. To see the Suns go out there and struggle the way they did really raised a lot of eyebrows. Yeah, you can look at the stat sheet and see that Kevin Durant went for 27 points, 9 rebounds, and 11 assists. But you can't have DeAndre Ayton shooting the ball more times than Kevin Durant in any world on any team. That just shouldn't be the way it goes. Their lack of depth is really gonna be a hound for them in this playoff run. With Landry Shamet being the only one playing double-digit minutes, is surprising with guys like Terrence Ross and Warren from the Nets. They got T. Warren. I cannot remember his first name to save my life, but they have Warren, and then they have Damian Lee coming off the TJ Warren. They have Damian Lee coming off the bench. So they just have to figure out their rotations, but they're going to have to struggle and to figure it out because they played 8 games in the regular season together, so they don't have that chemistry. So going against a team like the Clippers who have that depth and have that chemistry, I definitely think they could make it fuck around and lose this first round series.
Gary, how about you?
I'm pretty sure I remember correctly. I picked the Suns in 6, so I did expect. I know I always didn't pick the sweep. It could be 5-6, Shaun. If you want to correct me on that, go ahead. But
do you know I will?
Yeah, let me know real quick. But I know for sure the Clippers were going to get 1 game at least. Just like I mentioned when I made my prediction that Ty Lue, I feel like would get at least 1 game. And if they're going to get any game, the best game usually to get in any series is game 1, the fill-out game. And I think the Clippers accomplished that. And now today, like we mentioned, the Suns have won game 2 as they should have gone on their home floor. And they turned it. I watched the second half when I was driving back home from work, and man, they turned it up in that second half, especially. Huh?
I said dangerous.
Dangerous, yes. It was hooked up to the thing. Don't worry about it.
Okay.
Anyways. Snitch.
Shame on you.
You
you snitched yourself out, cuz. I don't know what to tell you.
You didn't have to point it out, though. Anyways, I was going to say that D-Book handled the reins in the third quarter and took over. Oh, you're crazy. Anyways, not like that. Anyways, he took over. Devin Booker took over in the third quarter and gave this team a spark and a will to win, to be honest with you. And realistically, they're going to be pretty tough for them to win because the Clippers, they have good guards and they have good forwards and wings, obviously, to match up well. I feel like with the Phoenix Suns, obviously we know Phoenix Suns aren't as deep as the Clippers, so I think that's the advantage. You're going to have to always win those bench minutes, and today it looks like they did not win those bench minutes, and that's why the Clippers lost, even though Russell Westbrook and everyone had a good game. But I'm looking at the plus and minus real quick if we're going to talk about some stats. The whole starting lineup of the Clippers were negative on the floor, while the whole Phoenix Suns starting 5 were positives on the floor when they played today. So that's how the Phoenix Suns are going to have to win. They're going to have a short lineup, and they're going to have to win all those minutes when those short lineups are in. And anytime Kevin Durant and D-Book or Chris Paul or anybody like that are taking a break, they got to take advantage. And you get to see today, too, Kawhi Leonard's going to get double-teamed so often that other players are going to have to make plays. And give credit to Russell Westbrook. He made plays today just like he made plays last game, even though he wasn't shooting well. Today he shot very well, scoring 28 points. But the Clippers are going to be in trouble until Paul George comes back, to be honest, because at the end of the day, when Kawhi Leonard gets double teamed, they have no really to go. And I don't know how long you're going to rely on these role players to keep making those threes for him.
Yeah, and Kawhi Leonard is going to basically be by himself for this entire series because, Paul George has basically already been ruled out for this entire first round series. And so that's not good if you're a Clippers fan. But I mean, I think you should be encouraged based on what they saw in game 1. So I guess we shall see. And just for the record to show, the notebook does indicate that Kevin and Gary both did pick the Suns to win this series in 6 games. So right now, both of you guys might be spot on and I'm dead wrong because I picked the Suns to get swept. But, that's just how it is sometimes. And I hope those of you who are tuned in right now decided to join our NBA bracket challenge because just like Emiliano joined us last week because he won our March Madness bracket challenge, whoever wins our NBA bracket challenge gets to join us here on the podcast. So we're looking forward to seeing who wins that. It's going to be pretty interesting. And also for those of you who heard Gary dealing with my antics while he was trying to give his response. I just love to throw Gary off and everyone. I like to throw them off their game sometimes. And that's something that you can only see. You can only see it with your own eyes if you're tuned in on YouTube, Twitter, or Twitch at Stats Over Politics. So make sure to check us out if you are tapped into our audio only version right now. All right, guys. Well, now let's get to the Eastern Conference, which I always like to say is the Leastern Conference. But, I mean, this year, not so much. Let's start with the number 1 seed, and that is the Milwaukee Bucks, who currently trail the 8 seed Miami Heat 1-0. And in game 1, Giannis Antetokounmpo got hurt and Tyler Hero got hurt. And so, Kevin, I mean, are the Bucks in trouble with Giannis's injury?
So before we get into this, I want to ask you guys a quick question. Do you think that people taking a charge is going to be something that gets taken out of the game?
Man, Kev, I've been seeing this since like last couple of years. They keep talking about this, especially when the injuries keep happening like this. We've seen with Giannis and John Morant. I ain't gonna lie to you, I kind of like it being there, just because, like, yeah, I do feel like it's a defense bailout play when there's like nothing to do. They just put the body real quick in front of them, so I can see how it's super dangerous when, like, obviously the athletic guys are going to the rim and you're basically taking their feet out under them and they're not landing correctly. So I can see why they would do it. I wouldn't be opposed of them taking it out, but Kevin, I'm not gonna lie, I like the momentum shift. I like when, you know, your coaches tell you since little league, you take a hit, you know what I'm saying? Get a body hit, go change up, you know, go take a hit for your teammate, you know what I'm saying? Take a body hit, so like take a charge, you know what I'm saying? So I like the element of the game. I like how that's gonna get the crowd involved, how that's a momentum shift in the game. So I feel like it's tough to take that out, but I can see why they would.
Cut that shit. Get rid of it. I don't care if people call us soft, if people call us pussies, whatever you want to say. We enjoy watching these games because of the superstars. And if the superstars are continuously getting hurt on this specific play, like we saw in football, they got rid of the head-to-head contact because star players and just players in general kept getting hurt on that one specific play. They changed the kickoff rules to eliminate how many head-on collisions there are. And that's the NFL. Completely different sport. But I think that that's the best analogy that I can give to justify why they should get rid of this play. Because yeah, we love the bang, bang plays. Those are exciting. Except for when a bang, bang play happens and then one of those star players doesn't get up. And then they end up getting hurt like Giannis did. Or they end up getting hurt like John Morant did. Or name any other player in the NBA who got hurt on that exact play. I am scared shitless that De'Aaron Fox is going to go up for a dunk one of these days and he's going to come down and he's going to land the wrong way because there's a big-ass 7-footer like Brook Lopez standing in there in the paint trying to take a charge. I think that if this play is consistently showing you through the data and through the eye test of what we're seeing, that this play is leading to more players and more stars getting injured, yeah, get that shit out of the game. The game will be better long term. Just like in baseball, some people who love baseball and love the tradition of it didn't want a pitch clock. Baseball has been so much better with the pitch clock, and I think the NBA could be better getting rid of the restricted circle or compromise, like Mark Cuban has been trying to do for years. Just move it up. If you move it up away from the basket or not as close to the basket, then that risk is much, much lower. And so, Kevin, answer your own question. What do you think here?
I think there needs to be a height requirement rule. If you're 7 foot, you should not be trying to take a charge. Most people, I know John Morant is a freak, but most people aren't going to jump over a 7-footer. So that's an injury waiting to happen. You're going to run straight into the 7-footer's chest, and it's going to be an injury. So I think there just needs to be a height requirement rule because I understand, like,
but that'd be unfair to certain players.
Little guys.
Yeah,
but,
that makes things sticky.
But shit, man, Anthony Davis shouldn't be taking no charges. You see Anthony Davis in the paint, you think you're gonna try to dunk on him to block your shot. He has 7 blocks, and for him to just slide under John Morant like that, no one in the gym thought he was gonna take a charge. Anthony Davis is flimsy as shit. I don't even think Anthony Davis wanted to take a charge. He just didn't want to jump, so he just took a charge. Like Garry said, just kind of slid. He was beat, so he just slid there and took a charge. There's definitely needs to be a height requirement because, like I mentioned, Anthony Davis has 7 blocks. He's known as a shot blocker, and he takes a charge.
Yeah. Only thing, Shaun, real quick before you hop in, only thing I didn't like what you were saying when I was thinking about what the negatives, what you're saying, I don't like how then we're just taking the defense more out the way. I know we want more offense, but then the defense is going to get slapped in the face again more. So, you know, all these guards are going to go straight down the line, and they're just going to go reckless, and they know no matter what, either it's going to be a blocking foul for them, or it's, obviously they're going to try to go, if I can't take a charge, what am I going to do now? I'm going to try to meet you at the point all you're gonna do is keep getting fouled because they're gonna keep doing like the head block, top of their head. They keep doing the hand block. So no matter what, if you get to the rim now, which is good for us because we got a point guard who goes straight to the rim, he's gonna go into the foul line all day. So it's like they got to keep it in there, man. They've been keeping it in there. I just feel like it's a situational. Like Kevin said, I wish we could do the height requirement. That makes sense. I don't really see any negatives with that. On there, actually, like we talked about real quick when Shaun said too, like, I don't know, we're discriminating against certain players now, we're doing certain actions. It's like anyone on the floor should be able to do anything else the other player can do, no matter what height you are. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. It's like when Biyana comes in now and he's flimsy and he wants to take a charge, but now he can't take a charge because he's 6'7", 8".
You're 7'3". What are you taking a charge for?
Because maybe he doesn't want to meet him at the rim, or he knows he's not going to meet him at the rim.
You don't got to jump. Just put your hand up.
Okay, what happens if LeBron is trying to dunk on like Brook Lopez 10 feet? He ain't blocking that at the rim. He knows he wants to take that charge. He wants to take that charge. There's no way he's blocking LeBron. That's how people get hurt.
But I mean, I give credit to Kevin Love, man. After John Morant almost dunked on him trying to take a charge, to see Giannis Antetokounmpo coming at you full speed, you have to, the NBA pays good money, but I don't know if it's worth that. I don't know if it's worth that. Giannis Antetokounmpo coming straight at you, and it's not worth it. Get the ball at the net, advance the ball, keep on going.
Kevin Love got cojones. That's all I can say.
Real quick, Shaun, I think you said the best point. I think maybe we should do. I don't see any negative about that one. What Mark Cuban said, extending it. Yeah, if you extend it, then I guess you're not going to be, unless you're John Morant, then you're flying no matter what from any which point. So I lie, including anyone else. I feel like Ja. I don't know if we should change the rule for Ja. A couple years they kind of changed the rule for Kawhi, but we've seen that so many times. Players going under other players. Like it was countless, so many times, any spot. Ja is the type of person I know. I want to keep him safe. Knock on wood. Hope he stays safe. I want to see him in the playoffs. He's a great player to watch, but kind of keeps doing this to himself, man. Literally, like he keeps injuring himself. Like just being like, it's not the first time he goes reckless at the rim. So it's like, it's great to see. It's fun, especially when he connects. And even those, like you said earlier, those almost Kevs, like on Kevin Love, like the almost dunks are even great to see from him. But I don't know, man. It's tough. That's why you don't see De'Aaron dunking that much unless it's a freeway, wide open lane, because there's a lot of risk involved. And the body's the moneymaker.
2 points is 2 points.
At the end of the day, you have to weigh the risk versus reward. And I mean, you guys know that I'm a wrestling fan, and I even hear wrestlers who are veterans and have been a part of the industry throwing their bodies on the line for 20, 30 years. And they're telling all the young guys like, hey, you may love doing the jumping off the top rope, doing the flippy crash onto a guy. But when you do that for 30 years, you're going to hurt your body. And so maybe not go to the extreme. And I think Ja Morant, to your point, Gary, is one of those guys who needs to learn that and needs to learn the risk versus reward in it, because it's like, okay, what are you going to get out of this when you could just be like De'Aaron Fox? I mean, Ja Morant should just be more like De'Aaron Fox. and he could just go for more layups rather than dunks. And also Kevin,
too, huh?
it is. And like you were saying, Gary, I mean, if they were to get rid of the restricted circle in general, then De'Aaron Fox would end up scoring like 100 points a game. And Kevin, I do like your idea, and so does Uncle Manny, as well as Uncle Manny is tapping in as he says, I agree, got to get rid of it. And he completely agreed with you, Kevin. Uncle Manny also agrees that Fox is better than Ja. I think that's something that we can all agree on.
But we should wait a little bit on that one.
Yeah, we're running out of time. We got to get to that another day. But it's an interesting debate. And so, anyways, real quickly, Gary, I believe, because I think I asked Kevin about this initially. Gary, do you think that the Heat could actually upset the Bucks? Are the Bucks in trouble with Giannis's injury? Because I mean, the Heat are missing Tyler Hero now as he broke his hand.
No, I don't think. I think if Antetokounmpo Giannis misses the whole series, I think it could be a thriller, because then Jimmy Butler, I would say, would be the best player on the floor. So then when you're the best player on the floor, you have a chance to always win the game. But I'm expecting Giannis to probably just miss. If he does miss a game, maybe miss the next game. Hero is definitely out. They already said that. So I do. And I was kind of, let's be honest, surprised. Miami have not been making threes all year. And they had Duncan Robinson on the bench and literally haven't been playing them. That's how bad it is. And literally, they made so many threes that game. And I don't know if I'm gonna be able to replicate that again. I think the Bucks are gonna come out, which I think is tomorrow. I'm pretty sure the game is. Yep, and tomorrow and tie this thing up and go back to Miami and turn it up, because I still think of the Bucks got all the weapons and all the things necessary to win this game. And like I always said, you can't take too much from game one. You can't always take too much from that. It's always a feel-out game for both teams. So I feel like the Bucks are champions. They're gonna make some adjustments, but it's gonna be a close one. You can't give up on the Heat. The Heat are always gonna keep fighting to the end, even when they don't have no offense this year.
I definitely think the contributions of a Max Strus and a Duncan Robinson were valued for the Heat in game one, but let me just take a moment to shout out Gabe Vincent from St. Mary's High School in Stockton, played for the Stockton Kings, got signed to a two-way deal to the Miami Heat from Stockton, and then he turned it into an actual contract. And I got the pleasure to interview Gabe for the Sacramento Bee when I was an intern there, like a month before the pandemic happened. And that was when he was first breaking into the NBA. And I wrote a feature about him. But just going from the reason why I mentioned that is just going from then when he was just trying to get minutes to, I'm going to ignore you. When he was just trying to get minutes to now he's a guy who is contributing on a playoff team and is doing really well. And he is kind of that two guard, but he can also serve as that backup point guard for Kyle Lowry. And I'm just really proud of Gabe Vincent. He's a real nice guy. And yeah, exactly. I'm gonna continue to root for him throughout his entire career. Unless either of you have any more thoughts on this series, we're gonna keep it moving. On to the Celtics. Toddy's number 2 seed. Celtics leading the 7 seed Hawks 2-0 after 2 games that were not very close. The Celtics ended up taking game 1, 112-99. It was never actually that close, as Boston was up 30 points in the first half of that game. And then tonight, a closer game, but the Celtics win again by double digits, 119-106. So, I mean, this is normally when I would throw it to Toddy and say, what's wrong with Trae Young and the Birds, as Shaq likes to say, caw. But, you know, the Hawks, they're struggling. And so, Garry, is this going to be a sweep?
It should be a sweep, but I think I predicted at least Atlanta can got to get 1. Maybe I even said 6. You want to check my
we didn't. So because this was the 1-2, we didn't make any predictions for the 1 and 2 seeds.
Well, I'm gonna say right now, I think the Hawks will they got to get 1. I would say they're gonna get 1. I wouldn't be shocked if they get 2 guys. I know it's not looking great for them right now. Then again, you got to think about when they go back to Atlanta, they're going to get some little bit of home cooking, hopefully, from the refs, like usually how it is. It's like the Kings kind of got it the last 2 days. They're going back to the ATL, Shaun, like you keep putting out. I keep getting distracted. I need to stop watching Shaun, to be honest. Anyways, okay. I'm getting your ass. I think the Celtics, obviously, we know they're deep. They've been playing great all year. Atlanta has been a 500 team, like we mentioned so many times and so often this year. So they got some things that they're not going to be able to fix because they don't got the weapons to fix it. This is be straight up honest right now. So I feel like they're going to need to change some things up for this team in the offseason. And that's going to probably, I feel like, to get bigger and get more defense on their team, because right now they got a lot of great guards who can shoot and make plays, but I don't feel like they're physical enough at the point, especially when you got someone like Trae and DeJounte. Yeah, DeJounte can probably turn up on defense, but then you need another big body guard who's going to be able to help them more on the defensive side and be more of a threat for them. So, and realistically, they're not a great matchup for the Celtics, like I mentioned. Celtics, they have no one to guard Tatum or Brown, basically. So the Celtics are going to have a gentleman's sweep in this one.
Kevin, what do you think?
Get the brooms out. Like Garry mentioned, they don't have a single guy that can guard Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown, and that's apparent. And you can just see Robert Williams and, like Garry mentioned, Clint Capella, is kind of on the ultra end. And I think this Atlanta Hawks team, they got the restart with Quinn Snyder. They have fired, like we've mentioned throughout the podcast, 2 coaches with Trae Young. I think this was the third straw. I think they just got to, hit the rebuild button. It kind of sucks to look back on it 5 years down the line. They could have had Luka. But now we're seeing what Mavericks going through with Luka. So, I don't know who got the better end of the deal. I guess you can say Luka because he's been in the Western Conference Finals, but then so has Trae. So, I mean, I don't know. I guess you can say they both kind of got the fair share of the trade. So it's definitely interesting to look back at it, but I definitely think the Hawks are going to get swept.
Okay, so thank you, Kevin, for bringing that up because that's something that Javon and I have debated about for years. Javon told me when the Hawks were making their run to the conference finals, he said that the Atlanta Hawks won that trade. Do you think that the Hawks actually won? Because let's not forget, I mean, they got Trae Young, but they also got a pick that turned into Cam Reddish, who they couldn't turn into anything apparently. But I mean, it's Cam Reddish and Trae Young versus Luka Doncic. So
Where's
I mean,
Cam
Kevin,
Reddish,
what
guys?
isn't he in Portland? Yeah,
Portland,
he's with Kev up in Portland. Kevin, what do you think about that trade now looking back on it like 5 years later?
It's looking bad, man, because Trae Young went to Eastern Conference Finals, and if they would lose in the first round this year, it'd be straight 2 first-round knockouts. Luka goes to a Western Conference Finals, and then he doesn't even make it, not even to the play-in. So it's not looking good on the trajectory. So if Luka goes another year without making the playoffs, you definitely would have to say at least the Hawks won it because after their big peak, they at least went to playoffs. And I know the West isn't as deep as the East, or I know the East isn't as deep as the West, but they still have no excuse to do what they're doing. So I definitely think in the long haul of it, I definitely think the Hawks won the deal. But now Luka got Kyrie, so that can change everything.
Garry, what do you think? Just looking
I
at
think in no world, no which way, how they won the trade. Atlanta Hawks did not win the trade at all. Soon as Luka stepped on the floor and basically became somewhat compared to LeBron in a way, he's been basically a top 5 player, at least top 10. I know Trae Young has done some great things. So if we want to look at what they're going to accomplish at the end of the day, like we are going to look back in 10 years, I'm not saying we're wrong here for looking back what they accomplished. You can say they're pretty much even, Kev, at the point. You can say they're pretty much neck and neck. In the next few years, you're probably going to see who won the trade in terms of what franchise got more successful, even though we do got to mention the Hawks are in the top heavy East. I say the top heavy because the top is heavy, but the bottom you can get into the playoffs way easier than which way the Dallas is when there's more depth, I feel like, in the West, so it's harder to make the playoffs, which example why the Mavs did not make the playoffs this year. But I think if we're just comparing simply the player to player, Trae Young's great, he scores numbers and all, and they both actually liability on defense, but man, the way that Luka just plays, the way Luka controls the whole game, there is no defense really like we've seen Miami do to Trae Young. There isn't no defense. We've seen the Clippers with 2 guards, Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, who are great two-way defenders who just joined, played that young man in the playoffs in his first playoff run, and he was giving them buckets in a scare basically by himself. So after that, and him being in all these MVP conversations, I don't think no way we're going to look back and say Luka was better than Trae Young at any point. I feel Luka is going to be a top 10 player for his whole career, and Trae Young is probably going to maybe sometimes creep in that top 10, sometimes come out. But I don't ever see Trae Young really, no matter how great he is and how many points he puts up, just unless he has a Curry running him. That's like Curry, did something magical with a great team. A lot of guards that size don't usually not top 5 players for long periods of time. Let's just looking at NBA history. Only people that really do to win championships, like I just mentioned, is Curry and Isaiah Thomas. Pretty much any other guard we look back at, small guards have had too much success unless they had a big wing with them. So.
Yeah, that's a good point. And even though we didn't make any formal predictions on this series because it wasn't determined when we recorded last Monday, I will say that my brief run on the Atlanta Hawks bandwagon has come to an end because I'm agreeing with you, Kevin. I think that they need to break the brooms out and that Toddy Celtics are going to finish it in 4. So a series that I did predict was going to end up in 4 games and as a sweep was the 3 seed 76ers versus the Nets, who are the 6 seed, as the 76ers held down home court and they currently hold a 2-0 lead over the Nets. So, Kevin, as we kind of run out of time here, I mean, this is your Nets. I mean, as far as stats over politics is concerned, this is your Nets, Kevin. So, I mean, does Cam or Mikal, do they get them at least 1 game before the series concludes?
No, I don't think so. I think they gave them their best shot, with Mikal to go off that first game and then Cam to go off that second game. I think they just, you swung twice and you're 1 away from a strikeout. They gave them their best punch back-to-back games in Philly. I just think that they have too much going for him. The future MVP with Joel Embiid just doing what he's doing, coming back off of 2 back-to-back scoring titles. I think the Sixers are just playing really, really great right now. So I predicted that they would win one, but after seeing the first 2 games, I don't think they'll be able to get one at all, and it's kind of sad. But they'll be back. They got a whole bunch of draft picks, so keep a lookout for the Nets.
Garry, is it a sweep?
I was gonna say bring the broomsticks out, but then again, I know what I said on my prediction pod that I said this versus Boston, as in the 76ers sometimes play a little slow. They scratch their head a little bit in moments. I don't think they'll do it, Kev, in the first round already. You know what I'm saying? I feel like they're gonna have a slow moment already. I think they're gonna have that second round versus Celtics, but I'm gonna give the Nets one. Even though I'm looking at this score, I don't know how they only scored 84. I'm like, dang, only 84 points. You struggling in this NBA age, you only get 84. Sometimes, maybe we're spoiled as Kings fans. Sometimes we have 84 by 3/4. You know what I'm saying? But this is the reason why, and I love this player. But man, oh man, you got to get on him when you can't not just get on him. Sorry, you're gonna hold him accountable. And it's James Harden. We already know it's James Harden. They won this game in spite of him having 8 points. And I'm trying to look at anything else. Did you do anything else? Great. He was a +5, so maybe he was helping on the other side, but he's 3 of 13. And obviously, I did not watch. I'm not gonna lie, I did not watch too much of this game, so I'm not gonna say
thank you. Thank you for that, because I was just going to ask you that question. Go ahead.
No, I did not watch. I watched the highlights of the game, so I'm not going to act like I'm just going to look at the scoreboard here. And because obviously he did enough to help the win. He contributed with him playing 38 minutes, and they won the game. So I'm assuming he got Embiid in great position, and he even probably got double teamed and do a lot of kicking outs, and probably had a swing pass, and he's not getting credit for any assist as usually he does. But still, I don't care what score shit you looking at, Shaun. You score 8, and you don't like to cuss too much on the pod. 8 fucking points in a playoff game, and you're James
close
Harden.
Your ears. Oh, too late.
8 points in a playoff game, and you're James Harden. And I know they got 20 from Harris. They got another 20 from Embiid, another 33 by Maxey. Yes, he gave Maxey the ball, I'm assuming, and let him go to work. But I don't really care what James Harden. I don't want to see James Harden get comfortable in this position. There is a layer to scoring. I'm talking about top tier. Anytime you're on a team, everyone knows a natural tier that appears. If you don't have you look at our Kings, for example, we know it's going to be Fox, a bonus 1 or 2, and the third score can be many different people. It's supposed to be Embiid, Harden, and then the next score can be many different people. You look at any team, it could be James, it could be LeBron and Davis, any other people. Right now, it's Westbrook and Kawhi, and any other third person wants to step up. He has to be one of the top 2 at least every single time if they want to go far into the playoffs. That's all I'm thinking I'm going to mention, Shaun. If you want to go far, good luck scoring 8 points versus Celtics, buddy, old pal. We'll see how that goes for you.
So just revisiting the predictions from our preview podcast last week, Kevin and Garry both picked the Sixers to win this series in 5 games. I had the Sixers finishing it off in 4, as did Jay Vaughn. My friend Emiliano was the one who said that the Nets would get 2 games, and I think that's a bit of a stretch right now. And also, the thing I will just say, just to follow up on my question to you, Garry, is I wasn't going to ask you that question to put you on the spot or put you on blast, but I think game 1 of the Suns and Clippers series on Sunday was a prime example of why it's not good to just look at the box score. Because Russell Westbrook, if you just look at the box score, you would think that he had one of the worst playoff games ever. Like, he was 3 for 19, just not good, had a couple turnovers. But Russell Westbrook made winning plays down the stretch of that game. And Russell Westbrook was a big reason why the Clippers stole game 1. And I wouldn't say that James Harden had as much of an impact in the game 2 at least, or game 1, whichever one you were referencing. But I will just say, This is stats over politics, but you can't get caught up staring at the box score. I will say that. And I just wanted to mention that just because Russell Westbrook proved in game 1 exactly why you can't just look at the box score. And I just think that that's important to note. As we wrap up here on episode number 25 of Stats Over Politics, wanted to get to the final series we haven't covered yet. This is in the Eastern Conference first round, as the 4-seed Cavaliers and the 5-seed Knicks are tied at 1. And so, Garry, this is an interesting series. You had the Cavaliers winning this series in 5 games. So do you think that the Knicks got their 1 in game 1 and the Cavs are going to win 4 straight now?
Yep, that's exactly what I think is going to happen. I think that the Cavs are going to be in control. I'm going to keep saying game one is always a toss-up game. If any, LeBron almost got a game one until JR messed it up in a finals game when he went off for 50 plus. And that against one of the best team of all time. I'm pretty much. I don't think the Curry Durant team is the best team of all time. Pretty much, I think so. LeBron almost got a game against him, and I think they only lost like maybe one game on that whole run, maybe two max. And LeBron James bringing a no Kyrie team, and he almost did that. So I'm just saying, game one's always a game that you can take, and I think the Knicks hopped on the Cavs quick in that one. And obviously, I think this is you could tell the Cavs, especially today, are starting to get confidence and see how they're going to adjust. You got to remember, this team hasn't been in the playoffs since LeBron. So they got a lot of guys who don't have that experience who are getting big time minutes. And, you got Donovan Mitchell trying to show those guys the way. And I think today was a perfect example where he kind of took a step back and let Darius Garland go to work early and get comfortable because he knows that he's going to get his. So I think that was a good thing from Donovan Mitchell that he's learning. I feel like on this team, especially, I know the Utah team, he had great teammates, but they really looked to him to do a lot. And I feel like this team, he looked upon to do a lot too. But at the same time, I feel like he can take a step back in certain ways and let his team and let his young guys grow with him. And I think that's gonna help them in the long run because man, they got some young, talented guys in this Cavs team that, especially 1 or 2 years from now, they're gonna be even more scarier than they already are right now. So I think that they're going to handle their business, and I think, the Knicks are not going to give up. I think I compared them earlier this year midseason. I wouldn't compare them now to us, but I know they kind of said, I think, the kings of the West, of the East I meant, just because I was thinking left-handed guys, going through some bonuses, and we got some slasher like Jalen Brunson and Fox and things of that nature. I feel like we got more shooters and things like that. But I would just say they're gonna fight. Tom Thibodeau is going to make sure they fight all the way to the end. And I think, they have a crazy crowd as well. So they're going to go back to Madison Square Garden now. And I feel like it's going to be a tough environment to play in. So the Knicks aren't going to give up, but I feel like the Cavs are going to be clutch enough with Mitchell to get the job done.
All right, Kevin, you look like you were shaking your head in agreement with Garry when I posed the same question to him because you also picked the Cavaliers to win this series in 5 games. And so,
Ked is all right, bro.
I mean, you and Kevin you're aligned very much so in your picks. And I mean, if it's right, then it's right. And so, Kevin, do you think that the Cavs are going to win the next 3 games now and do 4 in a row?
That's what I'm hoping, man. I think the Knicks really just came out there and got away with winning game one. I think this series is really going to come down to the other guys. I know we have Jalen Brunson, Julius Randle, Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell, but it's going to come down to the guys like Quentin Grimes, Obi Toppin, Emmanuel Quickly, Karis LeVert, Evan Mobley, Jared Allen, because we all know that those 4 guys that I mentioned are going to go out there and put up the all-star numbers because they're all-star caliber players, but it's going to come down to what the other guys are going to come do, what Evan Mobley can bring on the offensive end. We know what they can bring on the defensive end, but for you to have 2 twin towers and lose the defense, lose the rebounding 51-38, you have 2 7-footers in there. You shouldn't be losing that to anybody. So Mitchell Robinson coming in there and playing huge and basically canceling out Jared Allen. Evan Mobley's going to have to come up big, and he's the main defender for Julius Randle. So if the Cavs want to continue and hit my prediction on the head, they're going to have to figure it out. And like tonight, they were able to figure it out. And now, like Garry mentioned, going into the Garden is not going to be an easy place to play, but it's going to have to be done if Kevin's prediction is going to be right. So fingers crossed.
Well, guys, I am not aligned with you guys as I have the Cavaliers winning this series in 6 games. So I am going to pick the Knicks to win 1 game at the Garden, and then the Cavs are going to end up closing them out back at the Garden. And Donovan Mitchell is going to silence that massive MSG crowd, and he might even give them the shush because they should have acquired him, and they didn't. And so it's their fault. Any final thoughts, guys, before we get out of here?
Go Kings, baby. Let's go. Let's get it. And Shaun's out. So our host left for the first time. Put a scoreboard. All right, you guys. Good night from Stats Over Politics. Shout out to everyone who listens. Tune in and peace.
Peace. You guys have a good one.
I'm back now. All right, y'all. I came back. Accidentally fell out. Technical errors. But we out. Have a good one. Appreciate you all. And